Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive on Super Talk 99.7. Glad that you could be with us on this Tuesday, the 12th day of December. It's getting closer and closer. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas out there. We're so glad that you're with us as we bring you news and information you can use. We'll get you home safely and give you something to talk about when you get there. So buckle up, everybody. Here we go. There is a tremendous standoff that is occurring in the nation's capital right now. I mean, it's epic. And a lot of things are at stake here. I want to start by talking about the fact that part of this is tied to the disaster that we have on our southern border. And if you haven't been paying attention of the last few days, it's about as bad as it's ever been.
This is one of the border's most remote stretches, now one of the busiest. In the last year alone, there's been a 140% spike in migrant apprehensions in this area.
I've been working in this sector of the border for almost 20 years, and we've never seen anything like this. They're cutting through the wall.
Our cameras captured one of those breaches. Hey guys. Smugglers hid their faces. This is the breach in the wall that the smugglers have cut through, and this is what the Border Patrol is up against. This is not an anomaly by any means. Here's another one, Rod, that was just cut and repaired today.
That's right. I mean, it's a never-ending battle there in Arizona, and in Texas, the same story. This from Fox 51 in South Texas.
CBP sources exclusively tell Fox the numbers are so unsustainable, they have begun releasing as many as 5,000 migrants a day into the U.S. In a disturbing acknowledgement, 30 individuals have matched the FBI's terrorism watch list since October 1st, putting border state lawmakers on high alert.
It's a national security concern. It is so many different levels of concern. You got your all the trafficking that goes on, the human trafficking, the drug trafficking, the fact that people who we don't know anything about are getting into this country, and many of the people who have been caught, a great number have been on that terrorist watch list. Who are these people? Where are they going? What are they up to? We don't know. And Republicans look at this and say, you must, Mr. President, do something about the border. And the president doesn't seem to be wanting to do anything. He says, well, we had our package. We gave you proposals on the first day. Well, their proposal was to get more people to process paperwork so more people can come through, not to do anything to shut down the flow of migrants. The border is wide open, and people are flowing in not just from Mexico and Central America, but from all over the world, from Africa, from China. There's hardly a nation in the world where there hasn't been some refugee who's come through that southern border, trying to circumvent our immigration laws. The first thing that they do, the first moment they arrive on U.S. soil, they've already committed a crime. So the problem is real. Republicans want this fixed. Now, they're standing their ground because there's something that the President of the United States wants very badly. He wants more money for Ukraine. Yeah, Volodymyr Zelensky is here in Washington right now. In fact, the president and he are supposed to have a press conference at some point here pretty quick. And the president has said we need to take action to help Ukraine and we need more money.
You know, we stand at a real inflection point in history. I know you and I have talked about this, where the decisions we make now are going to determine the future for decades to come, particularly in Europe. And this is one of those moments.
It's a point of inflection. It's a thing. We need to do something. Well, Republicans think we need to do something about the border. And they're not going to give the president one red cent for Ukraine or Israel until they do something about the border. Senator Lindsey Graham.
I'm not holding the border hostage. I am trying to secure a border that's broken. And I understand what happens if Ukraine fails, but my Democratic colleagues are in denial about the threats we face as a nation from a broken border.
Well, he's right about that. Mitch McConnell is standing firm on this. You would think Mitch would cave. I mean, he met with Volodymyr Zelensky today, he and Schumer, and he wants to get money for Ukraine. But for now, he's saying, listen, there will not be any money for Ukraine until the president focuses and fixes some of the things that are going on down at the border.
Just to sum it up, there won't be a deal until Joe Biden and Republicans reach an agreement. And that hasn't happened yet. I hope that it will, because I think this whole package is important to our country, and I'd like to see it pass.
I would like to see it pass, too. The Volodymyr Zelensky also met with the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and Johnson says he was unmoved by the pleas of Volodymyr Zelensky, and says, look, the president has no plan with Ukraine. It seems to be the only plan they have is just send more money, send more weapons.
What the Biden administration seems to be asking for is billions of additional dollars with no appropriate oversight, no clear strategy to win, and none of the answers that I think the American people are owed.
That's right. We need answers. We need answers. And what's really sinister about what the Biden administration is doing is that they are doing all of this because they simply have one goal in mind: to fundamentally change the voting demographics of this country so that Democrats will end up with, at some point, if there's a pathway to citizenship or some move toward amnesty, they will be able to, count on those migrants who have come across the border to vote for them. And if that happens, then Republicans will not win an election for years. They want millions of people to come into this country. And for them, the possibility of getting those people down the path as well, maybe not even down the path. We all know that some of these folks are going to vote. But down the path, they change the demographics so much that Republicans cannot win. It's so worth it to them that they're willing to put our national security at risk. And these folks coming across the border, they will be grateful to the person who let them into the country. This is how they see it.
I love you, Joe Biden. Thank you for everything, Joe Biden.
Thank you, Joe Biden, for everything.
I love you, Joe Biden.
I love you.
Thank you for everything, Joe Biden.
They look at this as Joe Biden is letting me come into this country. An average of 5,000 illegal immigrants are being released into the United States on a daily basis, according to one report. This from the Washington Examiner. Department of Homeland Security officials told Arizona lawmakers that about 670,000 known gotaways crossed at the border last fiscal year. That number, by the way, 670,000, when you add it up over year after year, it comes to about 1.8 million people. The state lawmakers were also informed that an average of 5,000 illegal immigrants are released to non-governmental organizations who give help to immigrants every day. Fiscal 2023 saw a record high 2.4 million encounters with immigrants. The first month of the fiscal year, September, seeing over 260,000 encounters. Over 440 encounters have occurred so far in fiscal 2024. We're in that year now. Wow. Republican lawmakers have focused on border security for years, asking the Biden administration to take action to secure the border. And they're just not getting any help. They're not getting any help at all because the Democrats don't want to fix this problem for their crass political reasons. And this stalemate, this standoff, this disagreement threatens a lot of things. But, I hope that they hold their ground here. I don't know where you are on the situation with Ukraine. I think reasonable people can disagree about whether we should send money to Ukraine. I know many within the sound of my voice right now, they believe that we've sent enough. We don't need to do any more. Maybe we shouldn't have even gotten involved. Others look at it and say, you know what? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And if they're willing to take on and degrade the military of Russia, there's a national security benefit to us. To weaken an opponent in the world stage, and we don't have to do anything except send money and weapons. There's some value in that. I don't know. I understand that sending money to a person like Zelensky, he's not the nicest guy. And this is not really a democracy. I understand that. I get that. Not the way we look at democracy. I'm not sure the United States is much of a democracy. Well, it's a republic anyway, but a democratic republic. I don't know that they're all that great, but we have at times in the history of this country supported people who weren't very nice people because it was in our national security interest to do so. So I'm of mixed mind. I mean, I was stronger about it early on. Now I'm wondering just how much longer we can do this, and how much, if we're not going to go in there and actually give them the real tools they need to win, which would be aircraft, and not the old beat-up aircraft, not the old ones, but I mean fifth-generation fighters, F-35s, whatever it takes, because I'm telling you, we need to give them those tools if we're going to support them so they can actually win the thing. In the meantime, this battle, I don't know how long it's going to go. And I don't know if Zelensky is going to get any more money. And I don't know if, I mean, really, honestly, just how serious is this to the President of the United States? Is it serious enough? Does he really feel that strongly about it? Which does he care about more? Money to support Ukraine and Israel, our ally. I think the money for Israel will eventually come through. I think that those are really two different pies and two different situations. But, I mean, if he really cares about continuing to support Israel and to continuing to support Ukraine, more than he cares about changing the demographics, the voter demographics of the country for years and years and years to come. Which is it? Which is more important to you, Joseph Biden? Shut the border down. Many of the things that need to be done can be done and don't cost a penny. It's simply snapping your fingers, picking up the phone, calling the Border Patrol, calling that idiot you have running the Department of Homeland Security, and telling them, okay, we're gonna actually enforce the laws now, shut it down. I mean, that's exactly what Trump did. There wasn't, he didn't really get a lot of money for walls. He didn't really get a lot of money to secure the border. What he did was he enforces the law. He gave the Border Patrol, he took their handcuffs off and said, boys, go out there, and men and women of the Border Patrol, go out there and enforce the laws of this country. They were empowered to do so because the policy came from the White House to do so, and this president could do the same thing. So, Mr. President, I ask you, which is more important? Well, they're all important, perhaps. But there's not going to be any one red cent. I am pretty convinced that Republicans are going to stand their ground on this. Not one red cent for Ukraine. No more money going to Israel, at least on the short term. And unless the Biden administration actually gets serious about trying to shut down the border. It's a little too late, actually, but better late than never, I suppose. And we're going to continue to watch it. I think this is going to be one of the most epic battles that we've seen, one of these amazing standoffs. And thank goodness, Republicans have found a spine. And it seems to be driven by the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. He just simply says, we can't do that. We're not going to do that. So, Mr. President, the ball is in your court. Now, when Zelensky and Biden come to the microphones, if we can work it out, we'll try to bring you some of that. Not going to spend a whole day talking about this one issue because there's so much else to talk about. But we'll be on it throughout this afternoon. And, man, I can't foresee how this one is going to be resolved. I hope that the Biden administration does the right thing. 20 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Okay, the markets, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, and it makes you a little uncomfortable at times, doesn't it? And you wonder, am I doing the right things for my retirement? The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand it can be a little scary, but they have a plan to assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. Wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide that reassurance, and it starts with a phone call to this number. I'm going to read it several times, so be sure you write it down before we're done. 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon will get some information and then get back to you with a recommendation of what you should be doing. You have nothing to lose except for all the worry. So get started today by calling 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easier knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. You can replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. The number, here's the last time I'm going to read it, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away, and you can learn more by going to askbeaconnow.com.
Today's show happened because I saw a comment. He said, why don't you do something on doves and dove fields and how to find them and things like that. So
yeah, all right.
Good idea. It's past the opening day, but like you said, it can work.
Yeah.
Because the season is long. It runs for 90 days, and there's 3 segments, so we're going to cover all that today. Let's rattle off the season. September 1 through September 28th is the first segment of Dove, and then October 14th through November 5th, and then December 8th through January 15th. 15 is your bag limit. So September 1 is opening day, and that's at noon in Tennessee.
September 1st has been one of those days. I mean, you'll see guys. I mean, they'll take off work. Have big cooking and getting together with friends, and it's kind of neat to see.
Yeah.
Historically, it's a huge social event. I'd say the majority of the hunters probably hunt opening day, opening weekend, and then won't pick up a shotgun until next year. So,
we have 2 other segments besides this one. Running in October, and then even all the way through January 15th. There's a lot of opportunity throughout the year.
On our website, tnwildlife.org, on our homepage, you can click the button there to dove hunting info and fields is what the button's titled. It's got all the information on dove hunting. You can find the fields there. So let's talk about how to find a field. You click on Region 2, it pulls up the options that are available, and get down to Bark Camp Barrens, and you see it's open statewide. So the hunting's not over there. There's still opportunity. Even though we had a big opening day, let it die down a little bit and get back in there. You're going to have some good hunting, I think, there, sounds like, anyway.
Tracking tornado recovery relief here in the mid-state, plus possible Ukrainian aid, more coming from the United States. President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, in our nation's capital today. 3:30 Super Talk, then a 9/7 WTN.
Just trusting what I'm seeing, trusting our guys to be in the right spots, and just throwing it to the open guy. And sometimes it's as simple as that. And our guys held up front. Didn't feel any pressure for the most part, and when that happens and we have time and dudes are in the right spots, it's a beautiful thing, and that's what happened on those 2 drives.
Well, I talk about an amazing comeback last night on the Monday Night Football game against the Dolphins. It didn't look real good for the old Titans. They got a bad case of fumbleitis, and they made some stupid mistakes, and I went to bed and missed it. I can't believe. I said, I'm done with these people. I'm done with these Titans. If only I'd had just a little more faith, McMorey, because it was a remarkable comeback. Talk a little bit about what happened very late in the game.
Yeah, I mean, first time ever a team has come back on Monday Night Football down 14 points with 3 minutes to go, Brian. I mean, that's where the Titans were at, and you mentioned it. It's a close game the whole time. It's a battle. It's a defensive grind. No one's really seeming to get any rhythm on offense, but the Titans are staying in it. They're winning when they need to win on both sides of the ball, getting the points where they can, just kind of grinding it out. And then, like you said, Brian, they get the ball back after another nice defensive stand, a muff on a punt return, and the Dolphins get the ball. And
that hurt.
Yeah, they get the ball with just 10 yards left to go to score. They capitalize, get a touchdown. All right, Titans are going, okay, let's reset. Let's get on offense. And then, boom, they try a little pitch play to Derrick Henry. Will Levis throws it a little too high and with a little too much heat. There's another fumble right back to back. They give the Dolphins the ball 2 times in a row. And Brian, I was kind of like you. I was going, okay, well, I guess that's it. I mean, the Titans, again, they're close for 55 minutes or so. And then that last 5 minutes, they just can't seem to finish it off. But
we were wrong. That's it.
They did it. It was electric, Brian. I mean, Will Levis was seriously amazing. It was so fun to watch him take control of this team and never let them lose hope. I mean, he really showed yesterday how he could potentially be the future of this franchise.
Yeah, listen, here's a little bit from Will Levis after the game.
I just feel like every single week I'm building confidence. I'm trying just not to make the same mistakes that I made in that past week. And I felt like this was another week where I made strides and we made strides. And winning against a heck of a team like that just goes to show our record. It is what it is, but we can do great things with this team.
Well, I'm not sure that the rest of the team is at his level. I mean, he had a tremendous performance and finally got it all put together. But there are real weak spots on this team. There's no doubt about it.
There are. I mean, there's going to be roster holes, and that's going to be true for the rest of this season, and probably even going into next season, there's still going to be some holes. It's going to take a while to really get, one of the best 53-man rosters in the league. That takes time and takes some really good draft picks. But Will Levis is a great start, and that looks like already what is a great draft pick. And not in the first round either. They stole him in the second round. I mean, Will Levis dropped. 31 teams passed on him because the team they beat last night, Miami Dolphins, cheated their way out of a first-round pick. They didn't have one. So it was just 31 teams that passed on Levis. But the Titans capitalized. They got Levis. And you heard what he said, Brian? The first thing he said, a worthy opponent, a great team that we were facing. Then he goes to talk about his teammates and how they stepped up and how they, as a whole, never gave up hope.
That's the sign of a leader.
It is, and he's showing that so early on in his career. I mean, we're less than 2 full months of him really being the starter here, and he's already saying those things. He's exactly what you want from a PR perspective, and then you put him on the field, and he just gets you going. I mean, I would have put my helmet on for him last night, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, and listen, and I think it really helps Vrabel a lot right now. I mean, I think people were beginning to wonder, what is the problem Vrabel?
Uh-huh.
And I mean, there have been some whispers, not too much public commentary, and nothing that indicates that the team was thinking about changes. But when you keep losing like that, and you keep it doesn't seem like you can get your team together. It makes you wonder, were they going to be thinking at the end of the season about a change? I think this game probably reinforced that Vrabel is a pretty good coach.
I think so, Brian. I think he stayed aggressive when he needed to, and you see after the game, Will Levis running through that tunnel, and who's the first guy welcoming him before he gets in the locker room? It's head coach Mike Vrabel giving him a big hug and saying, hey, way to go, bud, way to go. And that's what you want to see from your two leaders of your team coming together and saying, hey, we're going to have moments where we have disagreements, where we need to work through stuff, but after that, after you come through and really finish the job, congrats, man, way to go. And so, it just kind of lifted everyone's head, and you can feel it. I mean, it's fun to have a winning football team in Nashville.
Yeah, and fun to watch Will Levis enjoying this moment.
Hey, just trust in our defense, and then just operation, being efficient with our operation. We've been doing 2-minute drills the first day of camp, and we do a good job with it, I think, and we got to show that to America tonight.
Yep. Well, it was. I'm really sad that I didn't have enough confidence in the team to stay up last night and see the end of it. But again, we'll talk more about this, Mac, coming up at 5:25 with Mac Morey's Wide World of Sports. Right now, it's 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7.
.30, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 58 degrees, a clear day in Nashville. Got a weather forecast and the latest traffic report coming up 5 minutes. Right now in the mid-state, crews say it could be days before everyone's power is restored after Saturday's devastating tornado outbreak. Meanwhile, Channel 4's Carly Gordon says the Better Business Bureau is warning about scams targeting victims.
Well, the BBB says they have already received 5 scam reports, and they're expecting that number to go up later this week as more of those scammers flood into town. And now, here's what you can watch out for. Some storm chasers will try and encourage victims to sign over their insurance checks. That is something a legitimate contractor would not do until the work is done.
And another scam to watch out for, scammers creating fake charitable organizations. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington today urging lawmakers to support more funding to help his military in the fight against Russia. He met with President Biden at the White House. Karen Travers has the latest.
Seated next to Ukrainian President Zelensky in the Oval Office, President Biden urged Congress to approve his request for $61 billion in aid for Ukraine before they leave Washington for the holiday recess.
Before they give Putin the greatest Christmas gift they could possibly give him.
The president said threats to the U.S. and Europe will only increase if Congress doesn't act.
We've seen what happens when dictators don't pay the price for the damage and the death and the destruction they cause, and they keep going when no price is paid.
And Zelensky said today that, quote, our goals for 2024 are clear. Take away Russia's superiority and disrupt their offensive operations. That is the latest news. Weather, traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Awaken 180 is my solution for weight loss.
Laughing, learning, friendships. Not the words normally associated with trying to lose weight. But with Awaken 180, you're not trying. Weekly weight loss while gaining the tools to keep it off. Free support for life, friends for life. Learn how over 17,000 clients succeeded with the solution for weight loss.
Awaken 180!
Let me tell you, if I could, about the folks over at Grace Point Healthcare, where they deliver medicine affordably with menu-style, transparent pricing, so you'll know how much it costs before the care is delivered. Right now, the thing that you should think about is a smart care plan. $69 a month, and for that, you get a lot. Unlimited office visits. I mean, think about that. However many times you need to go, you're covered. Free basic labs for the entire year. And because they treat the entire family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. Now, if you were to marry the smart care plans with that high deductible insurance plan that you may have been forced to take, could save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City year after year after year. Grace Point does COVID testing, and they have treatments that can help you feel better quicker. So if you think you have COVID, go by, get tested, and ask them about what you should do to get feeling a little better quicker. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number, 599-6868, to schedule a visit. It's 38 minutes past the hour on this 12th day of December. That's right. It's the 12th day of December, and, we are not that far from Christmas. So if you got your shopping done, we just have a few more days. I'll do the math later. Because I want to make sure I get it right, which I rarely do when it comes to math. But anyway, I want to talk now about the wokeness of this Biden administration. It's amazing when you start looking at some of the things that they're doing, and they go largely unreported and largely unnoticed, and which is why people like me exist, to sort of bring it to your attention so that you're aware of what's going to happen. Oh, the Green New Deal stuff. I mean, it's just wearing me out. I mean, look, everybody wants to have a clean environment, and nobody wants that more than I do. I believe in trying to have a clean environment and being very responsible. I'm a conservationist rather than, a tree hugger. There's a difference. A conservationist says, well, I'm just not going to waste the natural resources. I'm going to conserve. By the way, conservationist and conservative, they have the same root word. Yeah, they really do. Have you ever thought about that? I want to conserve fossil fuels. I don't want to use more than I need, but I'm going to use what I need to have the life that we need. And I'm all about, making sure that, we try to have clean water and clean air. That's a laudable goal, but we have to do it in a way that's responsible and doesn't destroy the nation in the process. The Biden administration, according to the New York Post, made 2 virtual signaling proclamations at last week's COP28 conference in Dubai that it says will help save the planet from climate change. Reading from the story, the policies aren't likely to change the planet's temperature by even 1/10 of a degree, but they just might destroy the 21st century American industrial economy as we know it. First, Team Biden announced it will stop production of all new coal plants in the United States. And this comes on the heels of the president's Environmental Protection Agency saying this year that it would impose new power plant emission regulations that are virtually impossible for coal plants to comply with. They don't come in and say, shut down your coal plants. They simply come up with these ridiculous kind of emission regulations and standards that the coal people say, well, there's no way we can possibly do that. The science doesn't exist. So what that really means is, and they've done it without saying that they're doing it, no more coal, period, to provide electricity. But that's not all. Whoa, wait, there's more. The White House just getting started. Vice President Kamala Harris trumpeted the next day that new rules to sharply reduce methane from the oil and natural gas industry are now being in place. The administration calls methane a super pollutant that it wants to eliminate. They say it's more potent than carbon dioxide. But methane is effectively a hydrocarbon that comes from natural gas. And here's what you need to know. This is called the most important point in the story, the nut graph. Eliminating methane is a de facto ban on natural gas power plants. You can't. So they say, well, we've got these emission standards for coal plants. And the coal people say, well, we can't possibly reach those, so I guess we'll have to shut down the coal plant. We can't comply. Then you have some that are powered by natural gas, but now they are eliminating methane, which is part of natural gas. The story continues. Here's the most sinister part of the story that no one in the Biden administration is telling you. Eradicating coal and natural gas plants will ravage America's electric power capacity. These regulations will cause rolling blackouts and brownouts across the country, like we've already seen in California. America's forerunner of radical anti-fossil fuel policy. The lights will go out intermittently. Home heating in the winter and air conditioning in the summer will have to be turned off or rationed. Without gas and coal plants, hospitals, schools, the internet, construction projects, and factories will routinely have to shut down when unreliable alternative energy sources like wind and solar power can't produce enough juice. Pay attention to this next line. Upward of 60% of America's electric power generation will go away, and soon. Coal still provides roughly 20% of your electric power. Natural gas supplies around 40%. You take away those two, you're getting rid of 60% of America's electric power generation capacity. And what are we going to replace it with? Solar, great when the sun shines, doesn't really provide that much electricity compared to what a good generation station can produce. What wind power? Well, what if it doesn't blow? What if the wind doesn't blow? By the way, those power sources can be used regionally, but it's really hard to take the electricity. That's a very complicated reason. It has to do with amperage and how much amperage the voltage has. But it really, you can't push that electricity very far down the pipeline, down the transmission lines. It can be used regionally, but it really can't be sent all the way across the country. Like, right now, if we need more electricity, we just go to another place and say, can we buy some of that? They send it down the line. What will make up for this lost power? By the way, this comes at the same time that they're pushing everybody to get an electric car. You get rid of 60% of electric power generation capacity. How are you going to charge those electric cars? It's insane. These people, they're just ridiculous. They don't understand how the system works. It's just, well, it feels good to say we're going to shut down methane. It feels good to say we're going to shut down coal. Well, I'm telling you right now, you do that, and this nation is going to suffer blackouts and brownouts like you've never seen. So, again, who's reporting on them? I mean, thank goodness the New York Post has put this all together. But nobody reports on this stuff. And most Americans, if you said, hey, do you want clean air and clean water? And do you support, the Green New Deal and some of the ideas being put forth by the Biden administration? Yeah, it sounds good. We want clean air. We want clean water. Okay, do you want electricity? Do you want air conditioning in the summer? Do you want heat in the winter? Do you want the country to have the kind of power that it needs to produce the goods and products that you use on a regular basis? People don't know it, but I mean, the internet itself, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to run the internet. And if you want to really get technical, and we're all moving toward AI, you wouldn't believe the power reserves that are needed to make AI work. Getting rid of the electric capacity of this country is something that may be a laudable goal, but you've got to do it in a way where people do not suffer. People will die. Electricity will get so expensive that people will not be able to pay their electric bills, and people will die. They'll swelter to death in the summer. They'll freeze to death in the winter. It will happen. Birthday blunders. John Kerry turns 80. And it's a good time to sort of look back on some of the things that he has said over the years about global warming, etc. The truth is, he once said, that what we face is not an abstract concern for the future. He said it's already upon us, and it effects that are being felt worldwide right now. Scientists project that the Arctic will be ice-free in the summer of 2013. Well, that was that was many years ago. There was still ice in the Arctic in December of 2023, and there was ice in the Arctic this past summer. He once said in an interview with CBS News this morning, the world has only until 2030 to avert the worst consequences of rising global temperatures due to climate change, citing an Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report from 2018. The scientists told us 3 years ago that we had 12 years to avert the worst consequences of the climate crisis. We are now 3 years gone, so we have 9 years left. The claim is misleading because the United Nations reports claim that Earth would warm 1.5 degrees Celsius between 2030 and 2052, but the report actually marks 2050 as the pivotal year for countries to prevent the worst consequences. 15 million people will die annually due to greenhouse gas emissions. How many people do you think will die when there's no electricity to run the heat in their homes? Millions will die, he said, due to greenhouse gas emissions. a claim that disregarded scientific evidence, according to an ethics complaint filed by a government watchdog. U.S. will not have coal by 2030. He predicted that the United States will not have coal by 2030 as part of the transition to green energy sources. But that doesn't seem like it's likely. He said we will not have coal plants. We were just talking about that. He has, time and time again, he and Al Gore have said these outrageous things that have turned out to be simply not true. Oh, the left. There's been a big kerfuffle about some of the things that college presidents said during a hearing. And one university president who did not condemn anti-Semitic speech on her campus is gone, University of Pennsylvania. At Harvard, there's a president called Claudine Gay, and she, again, could not condemn anti-Semitic speech on her college campus. And there have been calls for her to lose her job, but you'll be apparently the board, whatever board hires and fires college presidents at Harvard, simply said that they were going to stand by her. You know, you can't go on a college campus today. You couldn't go to Harvard and give a well-known conservative could not go to Harvard and give a speech. There would be outrage. There'd be a hue and cry. In fact, many speeches on many college campuses where the politics are very liberal have essentially banned conservatives from ever coming on the campus to speak. Whatever happened to the idea of a college campus as a place where you hear ideas and debate the great ideas of our time? But no, not at Harvard, not at some of these Ivy League schools, not at many schools around the country. They won't allow it. They don't like that speech, but they're happy to let people who get on the campus and carry signs and say outrageous things that are anti-Semitic in every way. They support that. Well, free speech. We can't really get in the way of free speech. This Harvard president, Claudine Gay, is now accused of plagiarizing several passages that were written by Nashville's own Carol Swain. And Carol Swain says, I'm not calling for her to resign or be fired, but I'm calling on the board of Harvard to look very seriously at these issues and hold her to the same standard they would hold for a white male or a white female. Miss Gay is black. She plagiarized, outright took several passages from things that Carol Swain has written without giving proper credit. And this was the kind of stuff that Saturday Night Live was making fun of Elise Stefanik, Congressman Elise Stefanik, and it was just, man, that thing was that was painful to watch. Number one, wasn't funny at all, and certainly it seems like to me the folks at Saturday Night Live missed an opportunity to be on the right side of that issue. 51 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I want to talk to you today about gold, and you know that gold has been used essentially as money for millennia. It's a tried and true store of value, consistent across many generations. Some have observed that generational wealth can have three components: land, art, and precious metals. Well, land, I don't know if anybody can afford to buy land right now with interest rates as they are. Art, well, you have to know what you're talking about when it comes to art, and I don't. But precious metals are something you can hold in your hand, something you can look at, and it has real value. Listen, you need to know that gold, platinum, and silver are practical solutions, and inflation is currently decreasing the value of your money. I mean, gold and silver can be safe havens during uncertain economic times, and you can learn all about the importance of owning precious metals by going to Nashville Gold and Coin. Maybe you have some gold that was given to you. You're not sure what it's worth. They can help you. Maybe you're just curious about precious metals and want to learn more. They can provide that education. Always available to discuss your options and educate you on the precious metals market. So do what I did. Go to Nashville's real money source, Nashville Gold and Coin. Learn more and set up your one-on-one appointment at NashvilleGoldenCoin.com.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
57 minutes now past the hour. Let's take a look at the markets. Dow Jones Industrial closed up 173, S&P up 21, NASDAQ up 100 points. 4 days that it's been in the green. Apparently it has something to do with today's report on the Consumer Price Index. Standing by with details and analysis of that is John Maxon from Beacon Capital Management. Hello, John.
Hey, Brian. Yeah, another positive day on the market, and it was really about Consumer Price Index today. The S&P actually hit the highest point today that it's been at since January of 22. The expectations were right in line with inflation, came in at 3.1% for the month of November, which was really what the market was looking for. It basically adds fuel and conviction to the market that inflation continues to cool down, that the Federal Reserve is done raising interest rates. So core inflation was flat, so a good inflation report. All eyes are now going to turn towards the Fed tomorrow, where it's widely believed they're going to leave rates unchanged. So it's an important report to pay attention to tomorrow. But good inflation numbers today.
All right. Thank you very much, John. We appreciate it. You can learn more about all the things they do over at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 59 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk.
.401, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Currently 55 degrees on Music Row. Sunny, clear day in Nashville. Expecting cooler temperatures this evening, close to freezing. It'll be that way a lot the rest of this week in the evenings. Traffic and a complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Starting with tornado recovery as thousands in Middle Tennessee still without electricity. And it is cold, as we just mentioned. Channel 4's Carly Gordon reports part of the reason is tornadoes Saturday hitting NES substations.
NES says they had 2 substations that took direct hits, this one in Madison and then another in Hendersonville. More than 300 crews are working to get them back up and running right now.
And NES says they have about 3,000 customers to go, but it could be days before everyone's power is fully restored. And over 8,000 people without power total in the state. And tornado relief help's coming from everywhere, including Taylor Swift. She graduated from Hendersonville High School. She's now donated $1 million to the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee Emergency Relief Fund. In the nation's capital, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington today urging lawmakers to support more funding to help his military in the fight against Russia. He met with President Biden at the White House, and Karen Travers can bring us the latest.
President Biden says this is an inflection point in history, and the U.S. must keep up its support for Ukraine in its war against Russia and not allow Vladimir Putin to succeed. The president said Putin and Russia plan to bombard Ukraine's electric grid this winter, sending Ukraine into a cold darkness.
The American people, Democrats and Republicans alike, I think, understand this, and they understand the very real fight that's going on right now.
And some crime in Tennessee. Channel 4 reporting that 51-year-old Scott William Gearing was arrested on Sunday after setting fire to multiple pieces of equipment at a rental company. Video footage shows Gearing cutting a lock and chain to get inside before setting equipment to flames. Investigators estimate that the damages total more than $370,000. Gearing's bond set at $75,000. Some entertainment news. Las Vegas is about to have its first rap residency. Jason Nathanson.
The Wu-Tang Clan is about to make money in Las Vegas. The rap group announcing the saga continues. The Las Vegas residency at the Theater at Virgin Hotels, the first hip-hop residency in Sin City. As of now, it's just 4 shows, 2 in February on Super Bowl weekend. The Super Bowl next year is in Las Vegas, and 2 shows in March during March Madness. The residency follows Wu-Tang's recent arena tour, which they say was the biggest in the group's history.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather coming up next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Good afternoon, everybody. 8 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the chair on this 12th day of December. Hey, we're glad that you're with us. Let's buckle down and find out what's going on in the world around us so that you can arrive home with something to talk about. That's right. We'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Around the world, across the nation, up your street, and down your alley. We'll give it to you all. Let's go ahead and call this a 2024 update because January 15th is the Iowa caucuses. That's right, Iowa caucuses in basically a month and 3 days. So it begins, and we got to be on top of it. The thing that I think is the story to watch is how troubled the Biden campaign is right now. I mean, he's in deep, deep trouble if you believe some of these polls, and we'll get into some of that in a minute. The folks in Hot Air wrote this. They said, Joe Biden is in deep, deep trouble in his bid to win re-election. Democrats are scrambling and bringing in the heavy hitters. They're looking, Joe Biden's in trouble. We got to send in the heavy hitters. One heavy hitter, well, she is kind of heavy. Hillary Clinton is a known election denier and two-time loser in winning the presidency herself. So if that's where you want to get your advice, that'd be good. But apparently, Hillary Clinton is now being brought in. I noticed today that Kamala Harris has a new communications director, and with ties to Hillary Clinton and some of her activities in the past. So the brain trust is coming in, if you want to call Hillary brainy, to help out. Really, honestly, if you need Hillary Clinton to give you advice, you're in trouble. She is maybe there's one person on the planet who's a worse campaigner than Hillary Clinton. She does not do retail politics very well. She ran an abysmal campaign. And she still can't believe that she got legally and everything was above board in her defeat in 2016. She's been an election denier ever since. And really honestly, what happened with her was it was close. And then she looked at a bunch of polls that showed that she was doing very well. And she decided that she wanted to not only become the first female president of the United States, she wanted to go out there and win by a landslide. She started caring more about the popular vote than the Electoral College vote. So she started trying to run up the numbers on the general election. So, she would have this huge, what she would think would be a mandate. But she did not go to certain states. And it killed her. She did not pay attention to the right states, and she didn't do the Electoral College math. And that's what happened. She got beaten because she was a horrible campaigner. And by the way, an eminently dislikable human being. So, but now Joe Biden's in such trouble, he's turning now to Hillary. By the way, there's a story out there today that I'm sorry, I've thought about it, and I've thought, is there any way I can tell this story? And there's just no way I can tell the story on the radio. There's no way that you can get the full impact of the story by me telling you some cleaned up version of it. And it has to do with Bill Clinton's assessment of Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign. He was not a fan of the way Hillary was running her campaign and then how they were, going out there and trying to win that election. So what I decided to do was, this is one of those rare times where you need to read the story to get the full impact. So if you want to read the story about what Bill Clinton said about Hillary Clinton's campaign, the thing that I can't say on the radio, just go to yourfarb.com. It's at the top of the page. URFARB.com. And you will see the story of what Bill Clinton had to say about Hillary's astute campaigning and her campaign infrastructure. So, look, I don't know if I'm Joe Biden and I'm in trouble, and the polls do look bad for Joe Biden, I'm not sure that the person I would turn to would be Hillary Clinton, but according to this, that is happening. We told you about this yesterday, but I just want to hit it again because we were so distracted by our tornado coverage yesterday. You might have missed it. With about a month left before the big day, former President Donald Trump continues to be the top choice for likely Republicans in Iowa. There was a big Des Moines Register poll, which everybody looks at very closely in Iowa. It's put together by the Des Moines Register, NBC News, and Mediacom. And it's the one everybody looks at, when it's time for about a month out of the Iowa caucuses. It showed that 51% of caucus respondents would pick President Trump as their first choice in the January 15th, 2024 Republican caucus. Trailing by significant margins are Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, with only 19% support in Iowa. South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley with 16% support in Iowa. Vivek Ramaswamy, 5%. Former New York Governor Chris Christie, 4%. Another Iowa poll published on December 6th, released by the Trafalgar Group, gave Trump a significant lead. That one found he had 45.3% support for the former president. So there you have that. By the way, there are some new polls out today about Trump and the nomination, Republican nomination, nationwide. This is not the way we do nominations. We do them state by state. But, if you want to look at where Trump, on average, leads nationwide, his other opponents for the Republican nomination, one poll had it today. He's 50 points ahead of DeSantis. Another poll had it at 54 points ahead of DeSantis. But, if you want to, there's polls that are sort of all over the place. But, look at this. The Real Clear Politics average of polls, they take all the polls and average them, has Donald Trump ahead of Ron DeSantis by 48 points nationwide. He's not leading by that much in Iowa, but he's leading by a huge margin. By the way, new poll out today about the national election, a two-way poll, when they look at Biden versus Trump, how would that come out? Trump +2. Trump leads Biden by 2 nationwide in this poll, I think in Morning Consult. And if you look at the Real Clear Politics average of polls, that's pretty much in line with where the average is. Trump leads on average by 2.4 points. I should really I thought it was interesting. I looked at it today. Let me pull it right back up here on my computer. I thought it was interesting to look at where we are in the general election, Trump versus Biden. Listen to the last, 10 or 12 polls. Yahoo News, Trump +2. Quinnipiac, Trump +2. Fox News, Trump +4. NBC News, Trump +2. Reuters Ipsos, Trump +2. Harvard Harris, Trump +6. The Tip Poll, Trump +2. Messenger, again, that's Harris X, Trump +6. Wall Street Journal, just out the other day, Trump +4. Here's one, it's the only blue one that I see. The Economist YouGov says Biden +1. Emerson +4 for Trump. Morning Consult, the one I just told you about, Trump +2. Average it all out, it comes to Trump 2.4 lead over Biden. And the interesting thing about the numbers is, these are two-way. This is Trump versus Biden, but that's really not the way the election is going to shape up, because there's going to be 3 or 4 candidates. RFK's out there. He's pulling about 22% of the vote. You've got other candidates that are running, and there may be even more. But the way it looks right now, the more, when you add 4 or 5 candidates and you compare the results there, Trump picks up numbers. In other words, the other people running take more from Biden than they do from Trump. It's not uncommon to see, when you do a 4-way or a 5-way poll, see Trump +4, +5, even +6. So if this Messenger Harris X poll has Trump up leading by 6, if you look at it, it's probably somewhere around 8 right now if you were to do that same polling group with a five-way race. Very interesting. The numbers looked strong and consistent, and there is a trend. Again, I'll always put in my caveat. It is a snapshot in time, but there's a lot of consistency in these polls. They all seem to be showing about the same thing. A couple of outliers maybe, but who knows? I would say the Biden poll is probably an outlier. I would say the Messenger poll, with Trump +6, is probably an outlier. But, you toss out the low and high and do an average, and it's right around 2 to 4 points nationwide. And again, when you add more candidates in than just two, it becomes a bigger number for Trump. Other election news from Paul Bedard over at the Washington Examiner. This is scary. This tells you a lot. About 20% of 2020 voters now claim they took advantage of election laws that loosened up because of the coronavirus crisis to commit fraud, including filling out ballots for others. This according to a shocking report being unveiled today. Some admitted they voted in states they don't live in, and others said they let somebody fill out their mail-in ballots, neither of which is allowed. For the past 3 years, Americans have repeatedly been told that the 2020 election was the most secure in history, but this poll's findings are reflective of reality, and it shows that the exact opposite is true. The conclusion isn't based on conspiracy theories or suspect evidence, but rather on the response made directly by voters themselves, said Justin Haskins, director of Heartland Institute's Social Research Center. Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. 20%, 1 in 5 voters cheated, if this poll is to be believed. Again, how bad is it for Joe Biden? From the Washington Examiner, Biden holds a 4-point lead in 7 2020 battleground states, an average. Biden holds a 4-point lead over Trump if you average out Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina, and Michigan. Michigan, we told you about that yesterday. Oh, my gosh. Michigan. The numbers in Michigan are unbelievable because he's lost a lot of Arab American voters. And if the polls are to be believed, Trump leads Biden in Michigan by 10 points. Whew. So there you have that. And then there's this, quickly. A poll, 17% of black Americans support Donald Trump. You say, well, that's not very good. I mean, no, it is. It's quite good. It's up 9 points over what he had in 2020. Former President Donald Trump, support among black Americans is surging ahead of the 2024 election, polling from Gen Forward shows. This on Breitbart.com. 17% of black Americans currently support Trump. 20% of black Americans say they will vote for someone else other than Trump or Biden. Trump also increased support among Hispanics by 4 points. 36% of Latinos support Trump. So, again, taking away from voting demographics that normally would be very good for Democrats. He's taking away some of those votes, and every percentage point helps. 22 minutes now, past the hour of 4 o'clock. I want to tell you a personal story about the folks over at Busy Bee. So, I wake up on Saturday morning and I got 100 people coming to my house for a party. And I'm trying to figure out, what's going on. And first thing that I hear from Cabana Wife, we don't have any hot water. And we've been having trouble with the hot water heater. It's about 20 years old. It needed to be replaced. And I put it off and I put it off and I put it off. But here we are. We're going to have people staying overnight. We're going to have people coming to the house. We got no hot water. I picked up the phone. I called the number that I tell you to call all the time. I have it memorized, 775-7833. And I explained the situation, and they came over, and I had a brand new hot water heater installed by noon. I mean, I'm telling you, they picked it up, they put it down, they got it done. And the thing is, you say, well, Brian, you do their commercials. Of course, they're going to do that for you. I think this is the thing is, I hear from people who say they have this kind of service from the folks at Busy Bee all the time. So listen, if you need heat or cold AC, or if you find that your plumbing, you got a plumbing issue, this is the company you want to call. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your official Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. The number 615-775-7833. Online at busybeehvac.com.
Today's show happened because I saw a comment. He said, why don't you do something on doves and dove fields and how to find them and things like that. So
yeah, all right.
Good idea. It's past the opening day, but like you said, it can work.
Yeah.
Because the season is long. It runs for 90 days, and there's 3 segments, so we're going to cover all that today. Let's rattle off the season. September 1 through September 28th is the first segment of Dove, and then October 14th through November 5th, and then December 8th through January 15th. 15 is your bag limit. So September 1 is opening day, and that's at noon in Tennessee.
September 1st has been one of those days. I mean, you'll see guys. I mean, they'll take off work. Have big cooking and getting together with friends, and it's kind of neat to see.
Yeah.
Historically, it's a huge social event. I'd say the majority of the hunters probably hunt opening day, opening weekend, and then won't pick up a shotgun until next year. So,
we have 2 other segments besides this one. Running in October, and then even all the way through January 15th. There's a lot of opportunity throughout the year.
On our website, tnwildlife.org, on our homepage, you can click the button there to dove hunting info and fields is what the button's titled. It's got all the information on dove hunting. You can find the fields there. So let's talk about how to find a field. You click on Region 2, it pulls up the options that are available, and get down to Bark Camp Barrens, and you see it's open statewide. So the hunting's not over there. There's still opportunity. Even though we had a big opening day, let it die down a little bit and get back in there. You're going to have some good hunting, I think, there, sounds like, anyway.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in our nation's capital requesting more aid, and the money news will tell you what happened today on Wall Street. All coming up 30 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to step on you. Mac Morey there in the newsroom, getting it done, bringing us news and information. And Mason Fleming in today for Chris Webber. Chris Webber will return tomorrow, taking some well-deserved time off. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and I just want to say this definitively. Sometimes people in the media, they don't like to use the word liar. They don't want to call somebody a liar. Well, he didn't quite tell the truth there. Or, yeah, well, that wasn't quite the whole story. There's all these euphemisms that they use. And sometimes you just got to call a liar a liar. And Joe Biden is a lying liar who lies. I mean, I'm telling you, he cannot tell the truth. I mean, first of all, we have this thing where he keeps saying, you know what, I didn't ever have any contact with my Hunter Biden's business associates, and I don't know what you're talking about, he says anybody who suggests that is telling a lie. Well, he's the one telling a lie.
It's just a bunch of lies.
He says it's just a bunch of lies, but we got pictures. We know it happened. We have all the evidence from Hunter Biden's laptop and other places, pictures taken at dinners at Cafe Milano in Georgetown, Washington, when he was vice president. pictures of him giving some of these business associates, that I use associates in quote, tours at the White House. So, for him to say, we got Bob Alinsky who says he got on the phone all the time, maybe 40, 50, 60 times to talk to clients. So if you gave money to Hunter Biden, you were getting access to the vice president of the United States, who, by the way, sat down for dinner for lunch once a week with the president of the United States. You had a pipeline essentially to the president. And he just can't tell the truth. I mean, here's another example. He told a story about the day that he had an aneurysm. Yes, that's why he has these problems. He's had not one but 2 aneurysms. He's had surgeries. And he told this story about when he had his aneurysm. It was a snowy day, and he was didn't know how he was going to get to where he could get some help for what was going on, his medical condition. And this is the story he told.
I had a cranial aneurysm. It was in the middle of a snowstorm. Not a joke. I couldn't figure out how they were for President Reagan was nice enough to send Air Force a Helicopter 1, take me down, but it couldn't fly.
Well, okay, now, that's an interesting story. The only thing that's true about that we can tell is that it was snowing and he did have an aneurysm. And he first of all, he calls President Reagan's helicopter Air Force 1 helicopter. It's the same helicopter that he uses. It's the very same helicopter. It's Marine One, not Air Force One helicopter. It's Marine One. Air Force runs Air Force One, and the Marines run Marine One. And he knows this. Those 2 guys that he salutes when he gets on board the helicopter are Marines. It's a Marine helicopter. And then the other thing is, it's apparently people have gone back to research and gone through. President Reagan kept a very detailed daily diary of everything that he did. And they can find no evidence at all that the President Reagan dispatched or tried to dispatch a helicopter to help Joe Biden out when he was having a brain aneurysm. True story, though. True story, not making it up. No kidding, Jack. Yes, a couple of days back, he told this story again. He's told it so many times.
When I was away, it was the last day that the most famous guy doing Meet the Press.
That, by the way, was Tim Russert.
In Washington, D.C., and I was doing the program. And what happened was there was a lightning struck a little pond behind my house, hit a wire, came up through the basement of my home, and 3 stories, and the smoke literally ended up being that thick, literally that thick. You've seen it. You guys have seen it. I wasn't there. And my wife was there, and my dog and my cat, and my 67 Corvette. But all kidding aside, they saved my wife.
They saved his wife. Well, the problem is that story has been debunked so many times. Associated Press said it was a minor fire, no real damage to speak of, and it was contained within a few moments. But no, to hear Joe Biden tell it time and time again, his wife's life was in danger. So was their animals, and even his beloved Corvette. He's a lying liar. He cannot tell the truth. 31 past the hour now of 4 o'clock.
.432, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 55 degrees on Music Row. Going to get close to freezing here tonight. We'll let you know. Forecast traffic report just ahead, 5 minutes. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington again to lobby members of Congress for more aid. Luis Martinez with more.
What the United States has really been doing 2 things. One, they've been giving Ukraine old weapon systems, and then they in turn buy back those systems from American companies. So the money essentially stays in the United States. There's another component of that where the United States also helps Ukraine buy new weapons, and those new weapons, again, are purchased with money that stays in the United States. So when we're talking about the $60 billion for Ukraine, it's really money that stays within the United States because it's just the weapon systems that are going over to Ukraine.
Republicans in Congress have made it clear that to approve more aid, they want the border secured. Now over to the Monday News, Daria Albinger.
It was a big day for the big board on an upbeat economic report. The Dow rose 173 points, the S&P added 21 for the day, and the Nasdaq jumped 101 points. Inflation was just about unchanged last month. The consumer price index rose 0.1% from October to November, held down by sinking gas and energy prices. But the costs for things like housing, especially apartments, restaurant meals, and auto insurance remain stubbornly high. The Federal Reserve will take that information into consideration, along with Wednesday's Producer Price Index, which measures inflation on the wholesale level as it decides what to do with interest rates. Choice Hotels says it's launching a hostile takeover for Wyndham Hotels and Resorts after attempts to reach a deal with the chain failed. Choice says the terms haven't changed and that the deal is still worth about $8 billion.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, let me tell you about the folks over at Eurofix. They have some exciting news. If you've lived in Middle Tennessee for a while, you know that Eurofix has been here for some 24 years, the place to go for European car repair, and you've gotten to watch them grow. Well, I don't know about you, but I love when a hometown business does well. And now we're proud to announce that they have a 5th location for Eurofix, now in Mount Juliet, on Mount Juliet Road, right across from the Dairy Queen. Eurofix can now serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and Mount Juliet. It's pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic who started in a barn in the backyard of a single-wide trailer grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. It's a real success story. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. So if you've had problems with your European car and you need to get it repaired, one place to turn, Eurofix. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com and tell them your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you. 39 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air, bringing you stuff to talk about when you get home. I want to give you a Biden Incorporated update because there really are some things happening, really starting to get interesting. It looks like Abby Lowell, who is the attorney for Hunter Biden, he's a wily guy. I mean, if you're a Democrat and you're in trouble, you turn to Abby Lowell. And you know what he's a master of? He's like a magician. He's full of misdirection. He's got you looking over here while the other hand is doing the thing that he doesn't want you to pay any attention to. He's trying to deflect your attention away from the facts in this investigation. Facts that wouldn't be here were it not for the folks over at the House Oversight Committee who've been doing a tremendous job. If we didn't have Republican control of the House, none of this would be coming out. Because the Department of Justice and the FBI, they weren't interested in looking at any of this stuff. So Abby Lowell is out there trying to make the case that poor Hunter Biden, he's being picked on simply because of his last name. Well, I would argue that it's his last name that got him into trouble because he's out there using his last name to try to curry favor, and he's telling people around the world, hey, if you want access to the Vice President of the United States and indirectly the President of the United States, if you want to have somebody listening to your case at the highest levels of the Obama administration, you need to give me money and I'll make that happen. That's essentially what was going on. It was a complete shakedown. But to hear Abby Lowell tell it, the latest charges where, he didn't pay his taxes, well, he's only being picked on because of his last name.
It's not a political calculation. We're following the law.
Here we go. Here's Abby Lowell.
I mean, it's because his last name is Biden, but it's not like they're going after, some distant cousin. It's because he is the son of the president who's named Biden. The Republicans and anybody else that's been investigating on the right-wing media, for example, have tried and tried to say that President Biden has done something wrong. They can't find a shred of evidence because he hasn't.
That's becoming a laughable statement. But this is the kind of attorney that Hunter Biden has. The investigation is going forward, and there's going to be, by the way, remember the investigation is not of Hunter Biden. I mean, Hunter Biden was the bag man for Biden Incorporated. The person who's being investigated is the current president of the United States. And the House of Representatives is about to formalize this with a vote on the impeachment inquiry. I mean, it's been going on. The impeachment inquiry's been going on, but they're going to do a formal vote, which gives it a bit more credibility, I suppose. And here is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
It's not a political calculation. We're following the law, and we are the rule of law team, and I'm going to hold to that. That's my commitment.
All right, and the question is, will Hunter Biden show up this week for a deposition? He's supposed to be behind closed doors. He said, I don't want to go behind closed doors. I want to do it in a public setting, which will allow the Democrats to turn it into a big dog and pony circus, a big dog and pony show. And you really won't get the information that you would get if it was a closed-door deposition. Abby Lowell knows that, and that's why he's playing this game. Well, we're willing to talk to you, but it's going to be in public. We don't trust you behind closed doors. Well, there'll be a complete copy of the deposition released to the public. There won't be anything held back. So, they're not trying to hide anything by doing it behind closed doors. They simply want the ability to really grind down on distinct facts, questions about certain transactions, certain phone calls, certain events in the timeline. See, any good investigator, they begin to build a timeline, and then they methodically go through the timeline and start to put together the story of how it all came down. And that's all they want to do. They want to go through the timeline and ask the right questions. Republicans will now, we are told, take legal action to enforce the subpoena of Biden, according to the Speaker. Republicans in the U.S. House are prepared to take legal action against people who don't comply with subpoenas issued as part of the impeachment investigation. This from the Epoch Times. The House will likely need to go to court to enforce its subpoena, says the Speaker. The investigation was opened by Representative Kevin McCarthy in September, but without a formal vote. McCarthy was later ousted, of course, from the Speaker on a bipartisan vote. Opening a formal inquiry backed by a vote of the full body, puts us in the strongest legal position to gather the evidence to provide transparency to the American people. The vote on the resolution is slated to take place this week before the House goes on holiday break for 3+ weeks. That's going to be interesting because, this is by the way, the holiday departure is looming while they're having this big fight over funding for Ukraine and the border. So that's, if they leave town, then ain't nothing going to happen. That's why the pressure's on to solve that problem, by the way. But getting back to our story. The Oversight Committee has put out a story on Twitter, on X. Here it is. Again, I talk about this all the time, that, sometimes when you are doing an investigation, I come to you and I tell you the very latest development in the Hunter Biden investigation, and it's one little thing. It's a drip. And then you go along, and then the next day there's another drip. But the problem is that, when you hear the little elements of the story, the drip, 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 the daily stuff, sometimes you need to stop and take a look of how much water is actually coming from all those drips. Because if you have enough drips, it turns into a flood. And so the Oversight Committee has said, well, just so that here are the things that we have uncovered that nobody else had uncovered until we began asking the right questions. The Republicans, according to this is from townhall.com, said the evidence uncovered so far reveals how Joe Biden knew of, participated, and benefited from his family cashing in on the Biden name around the world. Biden's and their associates raked in over $24 million from China, Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and Romania between 2015 and 2019. That's something we didn't know until they started digging into it. Until they started doing this investigation, we didn't know that Devin Archer, former Hunter business partner, revealed that Joe Biden spoke to his son's associates over speakerphone around 20 times or over 20 times. He dined with foreign oligarchs and a Burisma executive and had coffee with his son's Chinese associates, all when he was vice president. But no, if you ask the vice president about that, he says, that's not true. Those are a bunch of lies.
It's just a bunch of lies.
Just a bunch of lies, but we've got pictures. You didn't know until the Republicans started doing this investigation that Joe Biden's Delaware home address was listed as the beneficiary address for 2 wires from China totaling $250,000. Until the Republicans in the House Oversight Committee started asking questions, you didn't know that Joe Biden received $40,000 from China through his brother, James. Until Republicans started asking questions, you didn't know that documents from the IRS whistleblowers revealed that Joe Biden attended CEFC meetings. CEFC is a CCP, a communist China-linked energy company that wanted to dominate the U.S. energy sector. You didn't know that until the Republicans started digging around. You didn't know that based on whistleblower testimony that Joe Biden used pseudonym email addresses to send and receive emails from his son's associates. You didn't know that, did you? Until the Republicans. So when you start adding all these things up, you can quickly see that the Republicans are becoming quite effective in drilling down on this stuff. The Republicans also discovered major holes in the Biden camp's narrative regarding classified documents found at the Penn Biden Center. You didn't know that at all until the Republicans started asking questions and digging around. They're getting really close. Really close. Of course, this week, or I guess it was late last week, the special counsel came down with new charges against Hunter Biden having to do with his evasion of taxes, paying taxes. But according to some of the reporting I'm reading, and this one comes again from the New York Post, when you read into the document, and it takes a while to go through these documents and try to really comprehend what they're doing, it's interesting that President Biden's name is not even mentioned, even indirectly. And they went out of their way, it seems, to provide any evidence linking the misdeeds of the son to the father. It's as if, the New York Post writes, they live in a cave without access to modern communications. And the reason that the president has gone unmentioned after a 5-year investigation into Hunter Biden's role in the family influence peddling racket, and that's what it is that the DOJ, like most of the media, corruptly protected him As IRS whistleblowers Joseph Ziegler and Gary Shapley keep telling Congress, every investigative avenue that led to Joe Biden was blocked. And that's why those IRS investigators came out and blew the whistle. A few examples. It's good stuff. FBI document FD 1023, alleging Joe was bribed by $5 million by Ukraine, was kept from investigators. Investigators refused access to Hunter Biden's laptop that the FBI had been given in December of 2019. A search warrant for a cottage on Joe's Delaware estate was denied. A plan to search Hunter's storage unit was leaked to his lawyers. Questions about the big guy were not allowed in interviews with witnesses. Interviews with the Biden family members were banned. Joe's presidential transition team was tipped off in December of 2020 that Shapley and an FBI agent were in California to interview Hunter the next morning, and thus they never were allowed to do so. And the statute of limitations was allowed to expire on the potentially most serious charges against Hunter Biden from 2014 and 2015 involving payments from Ukraine, which could have ensnared Joe Biden. So, again, this indictment from the special counsel, interesting that they don't mention the President of the United States, but not too surprising. Interesting, but not surprising. It's 51 minutes now, past the hour, 4 o'clock. We got big news from D.T. McCall's. He's been thinking about buying a gun safe, but putting it off. No, don't wait any longer. Now is the time to take action. And by the way, what dad wouldn't love to have a gun safe for Christmas? I know I would. Gun safes are sales tax free. That's right, sales tax free. So it's hunting season. Be sure you're keeping your gun safe when you're not in the tree stand with a gun safe from D.T. McCall's. D.T. McCall's the largest Liberty safe dealer in all of Tennessee. And the reason? It's pretty simple. Free delivery and setup. Did you know others charge $500 for delivery and setup of the big models and $300 for the smaller models? D.T. McCall & Sons delivers every safe free every time period, never a setup charge. Security is important these days. Gun safes can be used for valuables, cash, jewelry, important documents, wills, deeds, car titles, whatever you need to keep safe from theft or fire. So save some big bucks now on your gun safe when you shop at your local D.T. McCall's. Just go to dtmccalls.com for locations and information.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
Tornado recovery in the mid-state, a crash in Tennessee involving a city vehicle, aid to Ukraine being discussed, and Harvard still dealing with backfire due to the university's president's and anti-Semitism debacle. Those stories and more. 5 o'clock, Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
I'm just kind of curious, Mac Maury, do you have one of those Christmas songs? Because I'm finding that this year I'm really enjoying, listening to Christmas music, and I went down to the Ryman the other night to see Ricky Skaggs' Christmas show, and part of what they did is the crowd was singing along, and it felt so good. I have a lot of famous Christmas. Do you have one that you really hate?
Ooh, one that I really hate. That Kelly Clarkson one can get on my nerves. Is it Kelly Clark? Mariah Carey? Is that it?
Mariah Carey.
That's what. Mariah Carey.
All
that one
I
can
want
get
for
a little.
Christmas is you. Yeah.
Yes, that one can get a little annoying.
Yeah. I think mine is probably the 12 Days of Christmas.
Oh yeah.
But maybe, I don't know. I think, as I said yesterday, I think, you get to 5 golden rings. That's enough of a song. You don't really need, you don't need the other 7.
Hey, the 12 days, that's in 2 days. We'll start.
That's right. It starts, right. It's 58 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 51 degrees in Nashville. Traffic report. Weather forecast on the way in 5 minutes. Starting with breaking news coming from Channel 4. A deadly crash in the Nations, a neighborhood in Nashville. A white truck overturned in the front yard of a home. A policeman was trying to stop this truck, and they ended up gunning it down an alleyway, somehow flipped over into this yard, and the driver... It was a fatal crash. That driver is deceased. There was another passenger in that truck, and it is at large. Police now looking for that suspect, a 30-year-old man. We'll keep you updated with that as I learn more here right on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Tornado recovery still ongoing in Tennessee. Tornadoes ripped through the mid-state on Saturday. Significant damage was caused to 11 different counties, killing 6 people in total, injuring over 80. One of the places who suffered damage was Springfield. Channel 4's Michael Warwick gives us a story of a business owner who survived the dangerous weather.
This is the first day back open for some of the businesses here in Springfield that narrowly avoided that destructive tornado. Rihanna Bruno works at Sally Beauty on Memorial Boulevard. Outside her storefront, debris litters the ground where a tornado wiped out multiple businesses. As the EF2 approached, Rihanna hunkered down in her store's bathroom. Seeing the damage less than 100 yards away, she can't comprehend how their building was spared.
And part of the damage done in those storms is to power poles, causing outages for over 1,200 people in Davidson County, almost 8,000 total in the whole state of Tennessee. And aid to Ukraine and Israel is stuck in Congress without a bipartisan deal for more border security. But negotiations on that still underway late today. Stephen Portnoy.
These talks have top negotiators from both parties huddling with senior administration officials. Their aim is to reach an immigration policy deal so the reforms that come out of the talks can make it through both houses alongside aid to Israel and Ukraine. But they face a daunting task. These talks are focused on whether to raise the bar for those seeking asylum. Democrats insist Republicans are making extreme demands, and Republicans say Democrats aren't serious about reforms.
And Harvard making a decision about the future of its president amid an anti-Semitism firestorm. Derek Dennis with the latest.
Embattled Harvard President Claudine Gay is safe. The school's board unanimously supporting her after a firestorm over her comments last week in a congressional hearing where she struggled to answer whether calls for genocide against Jews amid the Israel-Hamas war violates Harvard's code of conduct. The board releasing a statement affirming its confidence in Gay's continued leadership, but billionaire hedge fund manager and Harvard grad Bill Ackman writing on X, she has done more damage to the reputation of Harvard than any individual in our 500-year history, and that Harvard refused to fire her because it didn't want people to think the school was kowtowing to him.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather up next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the chair here on this 12th day of December. We're so glad that you're with us so we can bring you some news and information. And then, you'll have something to talk about when you get home. That's the goal. We drive you home safely, and we drive the liberals crazy each day right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, so let's talk a little bit about tornadoes. We're still in the cleanup mode. And it looks like we're going to be in the cleanup mode for quite a while because, this is a bad one. The National Weather Service, they will tell you, we have this sort of little game we play. We believe there were 13 tornadoes. And that's probably the way it's going to turn out. But, the local reporters are reluctant to say a tornado was a tornado until they are told it was a tornado by the National Weather Service. Now, some of them, we had visual confirmation. We saw them. We saw them on video cameras. We saw them. They were tornadoes, and it was little doubt. But a lot of these other ones, they like to go out and measure and give you the details, and it takes a while for that to happen, but now some of that information is coming in. From WSMV, tornado outbreak that we just went through is one of the strongest in nearly 20 years. The National Weather Service has noted that the last comparable outbreak was in 2005, and that included 5 confirmed tornadoes, according to the National Weather Service. The National Weather Service says 3 outbreaks on March 3rd, 2020, December 23rd, 2015, and December 11th of 21. All of which contained 4 confirmed tornadoes, were not as strong as Saturday's in Middle Tennessee. All right, so let's just go through it, and if you saw some damage, then you will hear something about your particular tornado. Listen, this is what we're finding out. 13 tornadoes, it's estimated, hit the region Saturday, writes the Tennessean. And they've classified the storm severity in several counties from Montgomery to Davidson by Monday evening. Days after a tornado swept through Middle Tennessee, Nashville Office of Emergency Management confirmed an EF2 tornado struck the northern part of Metro Nashville. So there you go, that. Indian Mound and Stewart, tornado confirmed. It was a smaller one, a EF1. I say smaller. You don't want to face 110-mile-an-hour winds. And the base of that tornado, 75 yards in width. 75 yards, that's 3/4 of a football field. That particular tornado stayed on the ground for about 7.1 miles. It originated from the same storm cell that traveled through Clarksville, but it was not the same tornado. So that particular cell was creating a lot of tornadoes. The 2 newest reported by the National Weather Service was an EF2 tornado in Dixon County's Cumberland Furnace. Traveled on the ground 5.83 miles, peak wind speed of 125 miles an hour. The path of the base of that tornado, this is amazing. 300 yards, they say. 300 yards, that's 3 football fields. Crews also surveyed an EF2 tornado in Robertson County, Springfield. The tornado traveled 3.5 miles at a peak speed of 120 miles an hour. The width of that tornado, 300 yards as well. 4 people were injured in that particular tornado. The injuries were minor. Another EF2 tornado reported in White Bluff traveled around. This one was on the ground a long time, about 14.29 miles between Dixon and Cheatham counties. That twister recorded 125 an hour peak wind speed and a path. Wow, this was wide. 500 yards, 5 football fields wide. Those tornadoes joined the others from Saturday, one from Madison that traveled into Hendersonville, another from Clarksville. Clarksville's tornado was the strongest, an EF3, 150 mile per hour peak wind speeds. It traveled 43 miles from Tennessee all the way into Logan County, Kentucky. And the path of that tornado, the width of it at the base, 600 yards, 6 football fields wide. It killed 3 people and injured some 62 people. That was the bad one. That was the bad one. We believe that Sumner County schools will reopen tomorrow. We'll wait for official word. No schools sustained damage from the storms, but power has been restored to all the schools in the county so they can now return to school. Several thousand people still remain without power. We don't have an exact number, but it is going to take a time to rebuild some of these power towers that that carry the heavy transmission towers. Were damaged, some of them, a lot of small power lines. In fact, that's the way the National Weather Service starts to find out where all the damage is. They look where all of the power's out. If the power's out, there's probably been a tornado through there. Not always, because straight line winds can do it as well. This is an interesting statistic. The total number of tornadoes in Middle Tennessee is now up to 19 for the year. 19 tornadoes confirmed in Middle Tennessee, more than double the typical average number we get on an annual basis is around 9. That's the average. So it's almost double. Well, it is double. More than double. Don't take the rest of the investigation will continue, and we'll get more information about that. I had a note here. So I want to see if I can find it again. It sort of laid out the wind speeds and how they categorize these things. I think when I was in my tornado that I had in Mount Juliet back in 2020, I think it was a EF2 when it came through. It took out 2 houses next to mine, and I thought that was pretty significant. It may have been borderline EF3, but these tornadoes, I'm telling you, it's one of the things about it is, I've covered a lot of natural disasters. Hurricanes are interesting in that they impact a wider area. Tornadoes, it's really interesting, is right where they hit, the base of those tornadoes is where most of the damage is done. I mean, there's other damage, but I mean, the real damage, the obliterating damage comes at the base of the tornado. But it's very localized. In other words, as I can attest personally, one house next to you could be completely gone. And then the house right next to it might have just a little damage or no damage at all. And they skip. We heard a story yesterday from somebody who was in a church, and they were praying while they were in the church. They were underneath the pews as the tornado was bearing down upon them. And it appeared, they said, that it skipped right over their church. Answered prayers. Usually the prayers come on top of the pew, not from underneath the pew, but, the good Lord hears them anyway. So Taylor Swift has donated $1 million. Now, look, we pick on Taylor Swift a little bit, but it's all in good fun. Tay-Tay is such an interesting person. And we kid about her sometimes on this show, but I mean, honestly, this is a class move and really above and beyond. Singer-songwriter, 2023 Time Magazine Person of the Year, Taylor Swift is doing her part to help those affected by the tornado outbreak that left 6 dead, many homes and businesses damaged. 12-time Grammy winner, spent part of her youth in Hendersonville, donated $1 million to the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee. The Swifts found their original Tennessee home in Hendersonville in Sumner County and remain deeply committed to its continued well-being. Taylor's incredibly generous gift sends a message to her hometown and the communities around it that she has their backs during the long road to recovery following this devastating event. Swift has a history of helping her adopted hometown. In 2010, she donated $500,000 to flood relief after the historic flooding across Nashville. And more ways to help. There are many ways that you can help, by the way. I've said before, I'll say it again. When I have, as a reporter, covered natural disasters, sometimes they were fires, sometimes they were floods, sometimes they were tornadoes, sometimes they were earthquakes. It really didn't matter. The one thing that I always saw, and it always impressed me, because reporters are, really, the reporters have a real reputation for getting to the location of breaking news very quickly. They're very adept at getting there faster than you might imagine, no matter where they are. And I tell you what, I would get there to some of these things in pretty quick order, and already the Salvation Army and the Red Cross were on the job. Handing out, for people that lost everything, warm clothes, a warm meal, a place to crash, just whatever they needed. And maybe, here's the other thing. What if you're in a tornado and you don't have your ATM card with you? Maybe you left it on the dresser beside your bed. And yet now, how are you going to get money? Do you have a checkbook with you? Most people don't carry checkbooks anymore. So how are you going to get money, right? Well, they can help you. They sometimes help you out with a little cash as well. So if you're looking for something to do, you want to help, I can tell you that I think these are two really good organizations, and they're there quickly, and they know how to do this. They're very adept and very good at getting into an area that's going through some kind of disaster, finding the people that need help and helping them. And by the way, also helping first responders. They support the first responders who are there as well, because when you have these kind of disasters, you need to have police presence. And sadly, we have to have it to avoid looting and things like that. But they got to be there and they got to stay there. And so the Red Cross and the Salvation Army there are a lot of good organizations, but I'm just telling you, I have a very high opinion of both. I mean, honestly, when you're up 24, 36 hours straight covering one of these things, and the Red Cross volunteer comes over and gives you a sandwich and gives you a cup of coffee, it means the world. It really does. You just can't imagine. So I can only imagine if you have lost everything in some kind of fire or disaster or earthquake or whatever it is. Isn't it nice to know that the Red Cross and the Salvation Army are going to be there to pat you on the back and ask what do you need and try to meet those needs. So if you want to do something, that's always been my recommendation. I don't have any association with either organization. I just admire them. 20 minutes now. By the way, I'm going to mention Congressman John Rose was out touring some of the damage today, and he will join us a little later in this hour at 5:35. Congressman John Rose on his impressions after touring the damage. What is the federal government doing about this? And while we have him there, we'll probably ask him a question or two about the things that are going on in the swamp today. It's all straight ahead right here on Super Talk 99.7. 5:20. T. King Insurance and Associates in Brentwood, 25 years they've been at that location, and they are an independent agency. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to tout you on this. You need to have an independent agent. Why? Well, if you're doing business with one of those internet companies that sells insurance on the internet, well, that's no way to do business. I mean, what are they going to do? They got a couple of things that they sell, and they're going to try to take a square peg and force it into the round hole. They don't really look at your individual situation. They just don't. You get what you get, and you like it. Well, that's not the way they work over at T. King Insurance. I'm telling you, they are there to meet your specific needs, not their bottom line. So if you call this number, 615-329-8121, you're not going to reach a call center like you would if you tried to deal with that internet company. You're going to get an actual person who answers the phone, asks you, how can I help you? And put you in contact with people who can solve your problem or answer your questions, whatever it is. And, they're going to give you a policy that meets your needs because they can shop around. That's what it is to be an independent agency. They're not limited to just one particular company that sells one particular policy. They can go around and find one that really fits your need. And the whole idea here is to give you a lot of insurance bang for your buck. They're the masters of the multi-policy discount. You can save 20, 25, 35% if you bundle, and they'll show you how to do that. So get your royal review with King & Associates Insurance. Log on to tkinginsurance.com. That's tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance and Associates. You'll get royal treatment and great rates.
Today's show happened because I saw a comment. He said, why don't you do something on doves and dove fields and how to find them and things like that. So
all right.
Good idea. It's past the opening day. But like you said, it can work.
Yeah.
Because the season is long. It runs for 90 days and there's 3 segments. So we're going to cover all that today. Let's rattle off the season. September 1 through September 28th is the first segment of Dove. And then October 14th through November 5th. Mm-hmm. And then December 8th through January 15th. 15 is your bag limit. So September 1 is opening day, and that's at noon in Tennessee.
September 1st has been one of those days. I mean, you'll see guys. I mean, they'll take off work. Have big cooking and getting together with friends, and it's kind of neat to see.
Yeah.
Historically, it's a huge social event. I'd say the majority of the hunters probably hunt opening day, opening weekend, and then won't pick up a shotgun until next year. So,
we have 2 other segments besides this one. Running in October, and then even all the way through January 15th. There's a lot of opportunity throughout the year.
On our website, tnwildlife.org, on our homepage, you can click the button there to dove hunting info and fields is what the button's titled. It's got all the information on dove hunting. You can find the fields there. So let's talk about how to find a field. You click on Region 2, it pulls up the options that are available, and get down to Bark Camp Barrens, and you see it's open statewide. So the hunting's not over there. There's still opportunity. Even though we had a big opening day, let it die down a little bit and get back in there. You're going to have some good hunting, I think, there, sounds like, anyway. Mm-hmm.
A fatal crash in a Nashville neighborhood with a suspect at large. Covenant School News and a special Tennessee celebrity helping the state when they need it. Those stories coming up 30 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport.
Bum, 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 bum.
The thrill of victory. And the agony of defeat.
It's time for Mac Maury's Wide, Wide World of Sports. And now here's the host of your program. You know him, you love him. You can't live without him. It's the incomparable Mac Maury, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Well, no, the crowd's muted today.
The crowd's not here today.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're tired because they were up late last night watching Monday Night Football.
Exactly. They've done enough cheering. They've lost their voices, and there they are. Yes,
exactly. Better late than never.
I contributed a little bit there.
Listen, I'm telling you, Mac Maury, we talked about this a little earlier, but I mean, this is one of those games that's going to go down in the annals of Titans history as one of the great comebacks of all time. Because I'm telling you, I got so frustrated with what was going on at one point. Then I said, "Oh, I can't watch this any longer."
Yeah,
and I went off to bed. And so this morning, when Cabana Wife awakened me, she said, "You're not going to believe what happened. You should have stayed up." I said, "Oh my gosh!" And I started reading the accounts of what happened. Will Levis was on fire. Give us your assessment of how it went.
Yeah, so like you said, Brian, it was 13-13. I mean, a grinded-out game in the fourth quarter, and then it was just a cavalcade of mistakes, a complete,
cavalcade.
It was just the utter demise of the Titans. It was like, just, okay, this is how the season's gone. Boom, 2 plays, it's over. They muff a punt. The Dolphins get it within the 10-yard line, and then the Titans get it back on offense. Okay, let's take a deep breath. Let's reset. Let's try and drive down the field, tie this game up, right? Because now it's 20-13. The largest deficit of the game for the Titans. What do they do the first play of that next drive? They turn it over on a pitch play. So the Dolphins get it back. They score another touchdown.
It wasn't really, by the way, Derrick Henry's. I saw that. It's Derrick Henry's fault. That's when I got frustrated, went to bed. He sort of got the toss to Henry was behind him.
It was behind him. It was high, and it had too much heat on it. No, that was totally on Levis. He's got to kind of loft that up a bit. There's nothing that Henry can really do about that. And those are just things, young quarterback, hasn't necessarily played years with Derrick Henry like a Ryan Tannehill has, knows where he's going to be at. But I mean, just the ability to be able to stay grounded and stay confident and come back in an opponent's stadium, in Miami, it was a environment that wasn't necessarily, friendly to the Titans, and they were able to march down the field multiple times. Will Levis making huge throws to DeAndre Hopkins, who had over 100 yards and a touchdown on 7 catches on the night. It just felt like everything was starting to work. And we talk about Will Levis, and he really proved himself last night because not only was the ability to make the throws and make the scrambles with his legs, but it felt like, Brian, we talked a little bit about it earlier on the show, but it felt like he reached a leadership level last night as well, where the team was able to come around him and they believed in him. Let's hear
a little bit of what he had to say last night.
This is a big confidence booster for us for sure. This is not the record we would hope to have at this point in the season, not the position we'd hope to be in the playoff race and all that. But all we can do is just keep pushing. And we talked about that all week, and we had opportunity to come and spoil their party. And be a really good football team and build confidence going forward. And I'm so glad we were able to do that. I'm excited to watch that HBO episode. Just trusting what I'm seeing, trusting our guys to be in the right spots, and just throwing it to the open guy. And sometimes it's as simple as that. And our guys held up front, didn't feel any pressure for the most part. And when that happens and we have time and dudes are in the right spots, it's a beautiful thing. And that's what happened on those 2 drives.
It was a beautiful thing.
It was. And you heard just a second there before it cut off. You said, I can't wait to watch that HBO episode. What he's referring to is the Dolphins are on the in-season Hard Knocks show. And so they'll obviously have an episode of every game. So Will Levis is saying, I'm excited to watch this episode of that Dolphins game. Yeah, let's watch that back.
I mean, let's just talk about going into this game. Nobody really thought the Titans was going to win this one. In fact, you said, and I agreed with you at the time, and a lot of people agreed, and I mean, some of the best prognosticators in the business agreed that this was going to be, a game that's going to be dominated by the Dolphins, and it simply, it was at times.
It was at times. It was.
But boy, toward the end, I mean, the Titans really showed their mettle. Now, is this a glimpse of the team that we might have in maybe next year?
Yes. And let me tell you why. DeAndre Hopkins is posting now on Twitter how happy he is with Will Levis. He called him a, quote, baller. So that he now has the certification from a Pro Bowler, maybe Hall of Fame type wide receiver. And he's excited to be in the two-tone blue now. Maybe he wasn't a few weeks ago, but he loves Levis. A guy that's going to be in the backfield right by his right and left hip for the foreseeable future. Tajay Spears. What did Tajay Spears do last night? The rookie, 6 catches, 89 yards. He had a few carries for 30 yards. He almost got in the end zone once. Tajay Spears looks like the future in the backfield that the Titans needed. And this team finally has some future. I mean, Danico Autry on the other side of the ball making huge sacks against Tua Tagovailoa on the defensive side. Right. It just feels like this team's, sort of coming together. I mean, slowly but surely. And, Brian, if they won last week, that overtime game against the Indianapolis Colts, we'd be kind of talking about playoffs, like in the hunt in the AFC. That's how close this team really was to really being relevant. And maybe that's not this year, but that's just something to be looking forward to for next year in the future.
And it gives a breather to Vrabel as people were looking at Vrabel and perhaps whispering, is it time for a change?
Yeah, everyone can take a deep breath. Mike Vrabel knows his football, and he's got a player who can play it now, too.
All right, time to get into the news. Mac Morey is coming up next with the news, taking off his sport hats. It is now 31 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock.
.531, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 50 degrees in Nashville. Full weather forecast. Latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. A fatal crash in Tennessee. A white truck overturned in the front yard of a house in the Nations off of 51st Avenue. Channel 4's Sharon Dankwa fills us in.
Police say an officer was driving behind that white truck. It didn't have a license plate, so the officer turned on its lights and sirens to try and pull over that truck. That truck driver decided to gun it. They started speeding down the road. The officer said he went towards another alley to try and cut that truck off. Now, when he did that, minutes later, he heard that there was an accident right on this intersection. Police say the truck went through a stop sign. It was hit by another black SUV, flipped over, and landed in front of this person's yard. Now, police say the driver of that truck was dead when they got here, but someone else was in the truck. That person jumped out and ran off.
And police are searching for that suspect at large, who they say is a 30-year-old male with short hair wearing a black sweatshirt and blue jeans. NES, along with Metro Police, are on the scene. That truck hit a telephone pole. Some Covenant School News students and the staff have delayed a return to the Covenant School campus. Students have been attending classes inside the Brentwood Hills Church of Christ since 3 weeks after the shooting left 6 people dead, including 3 children. Students will now return in April of next year instead of January. And some tornado relief help. Taylor Swift, who graduated from Hendersonville High School, has donated $1 million to the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee Emergency Relief Fund. That is the latest news. Traffic, weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Now they want you to leave your pain from in 2023 and get on the right path for 2024. And you can do that at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. See, the 2023 special is in its final month. So take this chance in the last days of December to get rid of your pain for 2023. Have you been diagnosed and getting treatment but still have chronic pain? Did you know that Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley have had tremendous success in providing correct or missing findings from an MRI report that you may have? They can show you the things that other people missed and then recommend a thoughtful, customized treatment plan. Have you had your MRI report explained in detail? If you're a new patient, bring in your MRI report for analysis, or let Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley do their own x-rays. Then you get your first treatment and state-of-the-art therapy, and with the best top-of-the-line equipment for only $23. That's for new patients only. You are more than a number at the Wellness Institute of Nashville, and they care about helping you get pain-free. It starts by making an appointment, so just get on the phone and call these folks right now. Good people, you'll be glad that you did. 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com. All right. 39 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air on this 12th day of December. We've been talking about the tornadoes that hit our area on Saturday. Quite a mess of tornadoes. So people are saying that in the worst outbreak in some 20 years or so. Today, Congressman John Rose, I think Congressman Green as well, were out touring some of the damage. And we asked Congressman John Rose if he would join us here to tell us about his impressions of what he saw. Congressman Rose, of course, represents the 6th Congressional District of Tennessee. Congressman, thanks for joining us on rather short notice. I greatly appreciate it. You walked and you saw the damage firsthand. What were your overall impressions?
Well, it was, first of all, thank you for having me on the drive this evening, Brian, and good to visit with your listeners. Just overwhelmed, really, with the extent of the devastation. Thankfully, it was not as widespread as sometimes is the case, but for those people who were impacted, certainly devastating, and obviously the loss of life both in Davidson County and in Montgomery County. And so our heart pours out for those people who've lost loved ones, but also those who've lost in some cases, everything in the way of material possessions. And so it's always heartbreaking to see these things and know that there's a long rebuilding and recovery process ahead. And for folks who face these crises and the devastation of these types of storms, there's a big moment to just take a breath and try to process what's happened and how you move forward.
Will there be federal support for those people who've lost everything?
There will, and it's my understanding that it takes a little bit of time to make sure that you're doing everything right. But it's my understanding that the governor is making that request to the president tomorrow, and has done the previous or the preliminary steps that have to happen. And so I think that will all be rather perfunctory in terms of coming forward and as quickly as possible. And as you know from covering these things in the past, both TEMA and FEMA already on the ground providing assistance. And certainly in a place like Tennessee, we were so blessed to have private groups that step forward in these cases, and individuals who just give of their own time and efforts to come forward and help their neighbors and those in their communities. And I know that's happening with the, for example, NES and the electric co-ops and city service that serves Sumner County, where they have cooperating arrangements where folks come in from states around them to provide assistance as they try to get electric coverage back to everyone.
I've always noticed when I've gone to cover tornadoes as a reporter that, you see the most amazing things. Is there anything that stuck out in your mind as you were walking around some of the more heavily damaged areas?
Well, it is, I think anyone who's ever been to the site of a tornado, you're just struck by the almost randomness of what is destroyed and what is not. And it's really hard to fathom. You see a house that's virtually untouched, and right next to it is one that is just totally demolished. And the way in which these storms happen and just kind of bounce around, and so it's it's just fate. And it's really, there's really, I guess, no explanation other than just the vagaries of how these storms work. And so I think for the people of East Nashville and Madison and Goodlettsville and up into Hendersonville and in our part of the district, we should all be very thankful that there was not greater loss of life. And certainly you've heard some of the stories and seen some of the photos of buildings that were demolished where there were larger numbers of people present, and yet most of them were certainly not, did not lose their lives, and in many cases walked out unscathed. There were some significant injuries that people experienced, but we should all be thankful and grateful that there was not greater loss of life. And I think we have the news media to thank for the coverage that they were providing. And I know I was calling people as I was watching the news, and even my chief of staff, Van Hillary, was very close to the path of the storm, and I was desperately trying to get him on the phone and say, you've got a storm headed toward you. And thankfully his family was unharmed. But I think we have that to be thankful for, that in this day and age, if you are tuned in, you can know about these things before they get.
We heard the story yesterday from We heard a story yesterday from people that were in a church, and they said everybody's phone went off at exactly the same moment. A lot of times that's the first time you realize, like when I was in Mount Juliet for the last big tornado we had. That was the thing that alerted me that I needed to take shelter. Otherwise, I've been absolutely asleep when it happened. So, yeah, I wanted to, if I could, just a moment, shift a direction, and I'm sure that you'd be okay with it because, boy, there is a massive standoff that is developing between the administration and between Republicans. And boy, I'm glad Republicans are standing their ground. They're saying basically, you've got to fix, Mr. President, the situation on the border, or we're not going to sign off on any more money for Ukraine. I mean, Volodymyr Zelensky was in Washington today, meeting with the president, meeting with the Speaker of the House, meeting with the Senate leaders. And he's asking for more money, but Republicans are saying you can't have it until we do something about that border. Now, you're just a few days from the Christmas break. How's this all going to play out, do you think?
Well, that's a good question. And so as Speaker Johnson, as you probably heard him describe, he has been resolute about this. And frankly, Speaker McCarthy before him, for 6 months ago, we passed comprehensive legislation in the form of a bill called H.R. 2 that would address many of the problems at the border and with our asylum process, et cetera. And frankly, it has just sat unattended to on Chuck Schumer's desk over on the Senate side. And we've been making it clear to both the Senate and to the administration, to the Biden administration, President Biden, that we need to see some attention paid to our own border and securing our own country before we expend billions more of federal taxpayers' money to help defend another country. And the White House has just turned a blind eye or a deaf ear to us. And so, I think you're right. And we saw this with, of course, the debt limit extension back in the summer, that they're going to play this game of chicken. But for those listeners, we have provided the path forward on the House side, and the President and the Senate just need to take that up. And if they have an alternate proposal, it's time for them to make it. I think we will go home this week, and if the Senate finally gets off its butt and does something, then maybe we'll come back and try to address that.
Well, and the Senate seems to have found its spine on this issue. They seem to be standing with the Speaker Johnson on this matter, saying that, look, we're just not going to give you the money you need until you fix this problem. Are you surprised that the Senate has finally decided to sort of work in hand with House Republicans?
I'm very pleased by it. And you're right, Leader McConnell has stepped forward and said we have to address this, and I think that's the right thing to do. I think the Senate and particularly Leader McConnell have taken note of the fact that we intend to stand our ground, and I think we've communicated that, and I'm thankful to Speaker Johnson for being resolute in that. So yes, I think it's a very pleasing development to see the Senate leadership support that, and I think that's what's needed for us to move the ball on this issue and frankly on others as well. And so I think the Senate is right to want to see a resolute response from the House, and I think they've seen that that's where we are, and so hopefully that will lead us ultimately to an answer that will address this border crisis that we've had now throughout the Biden administration. It's just breathtaking, the number of people entering our country illegally.
It is. It's
and I
shocking.
hear from this every day from constituents who are upset about that and upset about then the failure of the government to address other critical needs while allowing this crisis at the border to continue.
I just have one other quick question, and that is Hunter Biden. He's supposed to testify behind closed doors, give a detailed deposition. His lawyer said he doesn't want to do it behind closed doors, and there's sort of a question about whether he's going to show up or not for that deposition. What is the feeling in the House of Representatives if he does not show?
Well, I think that's why you see this the growing consensus that we're going to advance on the floor, and I think later this week you'll see this happen. A formal impeachment inquiry vote, because I think even those who were maybe questioning the propriety of that have come to understand that the administration and Hunter Biden and others are refusing to to do what they're supposed to do. They're refusing to respond to subpoenas. And I think ultimately we would prevail, but time is of the essence. And so we're going to remove that objection, that the White House has raised. It's interesting to note that that's not the way this proceeded in the two impeachments that the Democrats pursued against President Trump, but we're going to go ahead and take that extraordinary step. And I think then they will be hard pressed to resist the power of the subpoena from the House to pursue this investigation. And as you know, as you've watched this unfold, a growing, really weight of evidence that the Biden family has misused their power.
We were just going through that a little earlier. I mean, when you start ticking off the things that have been sort of uncovered by the House Oversight Committee, I always say it's a drip, drip, drip. Every day there's a new little development. When you look at the drips, it adds up to a considerable body of water at some point. There's a lot there that would not have been uncovered had it not been for the whistleblowers and the Republicans who control the House. Well, Congressman, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to share with us your thoughts about what happened here in Tennessee Saturday night, but also what's going on in the swamp there as we head toward the Christmas break. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for having me as a guest, and it's a great honor and privilege to represent the good people of the 6th District of Tennessee, including you.
All right, that's right here in Wilson County. Thank you, Congressman. It is now 5:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Now, pay close attention here. At Genesis Diamonds, they're rolling back prices and finance rates so you can get a headliner gift for this Christmas. Maybe it's that pair of diamond earrings or that all-new designer fashion bracelet or that dazzling 2-carat diamond ring. All more affordable because at Genesis, they've got special pricing across the board and zero interest financing for 5 years. So you can get that $3,000 diamond pendant and pay just $50 a month, or get that $6,000 eternity band for $100 a month. Everything's included in this amazing holiday offer. All GIA certified natural diamonds and all lab-grown diamonds, even all our luxury pre-owned Rolex watches. Imagine a $15,000 Rolex for just $250 a month. You can even finance the sales tax. So don't let talk of rising prices and high interest rates dampen your holiday spirit. At Genesis, they're lowering prices and taking interest rates down to zero. Get that amazing gift they deserve and make your money go farther than ever. Merry Christmas from Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs, on approved credit only.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
6 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 49 degrees on Music Row. Set to get right around freezing here later on tonight. Full forecast. Latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Starting with tornado recovery efforts that are still ongoing here in Tennessee after Saturday's storms. Significant damage was caused to 11 different counties, killing 6 people in total, injuring over 80. And one of the places who suffered damage was Springfield. Channel 4's Michael Warwick gives us a story of a business owner who survived the dangerous weather.
This is the first day back open for some of the businesses here in Springfield that narrowly avoided that destructive tornado. Rihanna Bruno works at Sally Beauty on Memorial Boulevard. Outside her storefront, debris litters the ground where a tornado wiped out multiple businesses. As the EF2 approached, Rihanna hunkered down in her store's bathroom. Seeing the damage less than 100 yards away, she can't comprehend how their building was spared.
And part of that damage done in the storms to power poles, causing outages for around 1,200 people in Davidson County in the state, 8,000 total right now, or nearabouts. And tornado relief help coming from Taylor Swift, who graduated from Hendersonville High School. She's donated $1 million to the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee Emergency Relief Fund. In the nation's capital, as Congress remains stuck on funding Ukraine's war to oust the near 2-year Russian invasion, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky continued to push for his country with the support of President Joe Biden. Zelensky spent the day on Capitol Hill making his case for Congress to act now before they recess for the holiday. Late this afternoon, the two presidents held a joint news conference at the White House, hoping to tip the scales and get that additional aid for Ukraine. Karen Travers.
President Biden said the White House is working with Senate Democrats and Republicans to try and reach a bipartisan compromise on border security and policy that would break a stalemate and get funding for Ukraine and Israel across the finish line.
Compromise is how democracy works, and I'm ready and offered compromise already. Holding Ukraine funding hostage in the attempt to force through an extreme Republican partisan agenda on the border is not how it works. We need real solutions.
The president still not providing specifics on where he would be willing to compromise on border policies.
And now back here in Tennessee with a fatal crash. A white truck overturned in the front yard of a house in the Nations off of 51st Avenue. Channel 4's Sharon Dankwa fills us in.
Police say an officer was driving behind that white truck. It didn't have a license plate, so the officer turned on its lights and sirens to try and pull over that truck. That truck driver decided to gun it. They started speeding down the road. The officer said he went towards another alley to try and cut that truck off. Now, when he did that, minutes later, he heard that there was an accident right on this intersection. Police say the truck went through a stop sign. It was hit by another black SUV, flipped over, and landed in front of this person's yard. Now, police say the driver of that truck was dead when they got here, but someone else was in the truck. That person jumped out and ran off.
And police now searching for that suspect who's at large. They say he's a 30-year-old male with short hair wearing a black sweatshirt, blue jeans. NES, along with Metro Police, arrived at the scene. That truck hit a telephone pole. That is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hour number 3, right? Hour number 4, rather, of the drive. Hey, I got to keep up here.
It's running away from you.
No, 4. It's at the 4th hour of the drive. Man, time flies when you're having fun here, you know. This bringing you news and information is the joy of my life, and I'm glad to be able to do it each and every day, and glad that you find merit with what we do as we try to keep you informed about what's going on in the world around you. Okay, I want to tell you that in the nation's capital right now, there is an epic showdown brewing. And on one side of the equation are Republicans in the House and the Senate who are, in a rare moment, unified that something must be done to solve the crisis on our southern border. They're standing firm. And what they're telling the administration is, you have let us down. The southern border is an unmitigated disaster on many different levels: national security, human trafficking, the pain and suffering of the people who are trying to make these treks because they believe, that the Biden administration will let them in, and they would not be wrong. The national security concerns that we have of people coming across the border, the fentanyl coming across the border. Republicans say, we've had enough. You've got to solve the problem. By the way, the problem is as bad as it's ever been, maybe worse. Here is the situation in Texas, reported by a local reporter from Fox 51.
CBP sources exclusively tell Fox the numbers are so unsustainable, they have begun releasing as many as 5,000 migrants a day into the U.S. In a disturbing acknowledgement, 30 individuals have matched the FBI's terrorism watch list since October 1st, putting border state lawmakers on high alert.
All right. So, it's bad. Here's Arizona, a local reporter telling the story there.
This is one of the border's most remote stretches, now one of the busiest. In the last year alone, there's been a 140% spike in migrant apprehensions in this area.
I've been working in this sector of the border for almost 20 years, and we've never seen anything like this. They're cutting through the wall.
Our cameras captured one of those breaches. Hey guys. Smugglers hid their faces. This is the breach in the wall that the smugglers have cut through, and this is what the Border Patrol is up against. This is not an anomaly by any means. Here's another one, Rod, that was just cut and repaired today.
It's unbelievable what's happening on the border. Numbers as high as perhaps they've ever been, if not higher. And as I said, on the other side of the equation, the President of the United States who says, I want money for Ukraine. Now, there are Republicans who want to provide that money for Ukraine and also for Israel. But Republicans have said, we're absolutely not going to give another penny to help defend Ukrainian borders until you do something about our southern border, and you got to do it now. And they have laid out what they need to see happen. It's a scratch my back situation. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You fix this border thing, and we'll see about the money for Ukraine and Israel. The president met today with Volodymyr Zelensky. He's in town. He's there in Washington making the rounds. Met with the president, met with congressional leaders. And the president says, that folks in Ukraine need help now.
We stand at a real inflection point in history. I know you and I have talked about this, where the decisions we make now are going to determine the future for decades to come, particularly in Europe. And this is one of those moments.
He says it's an inflection point. I think he said reflection point, but I think he meant inflection point. It's time, he says you got to do something about it. And there are Republicans who want to do something, but they're not going to do it now. Standing firm against any more money for Ukraine until the border is solved, is Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, who says, I don't really know what the Biden administration's plan for Ukraine is.
What the Biden administration seems to be asking for is billions of additional dollars with no appropriate oversight, no clear strategy to win, and none of the answers that I think the American people are owed.
Now, so he met with Volodymyr Zelensky. Said he didn't change his mind about things, has some real concerns about sending more money. Mitch McConnell, on the other hand, over in the Senate, he actually does want to provide money for Ukraine. He believes that's the right thing to do. Yeah, the reasonable people can disagree on that. But he says we're going to hang with the House on this one. No money for Ukraine until you fix the border.
Just to sum it up, there won't be a deal until Joe Biden and Republicans reach an agreement. And that hasn't happened yet. I hope that it will, because I think this whole package is important to our country, and I'd like to see it pass.
He'd like to see it pass. And by the way, there's not much time for it to pass, because you know what? Everybody's going home at the end of the week for 3 weeks. It's the Christmas break. So if it doesn't happen, tomorrow or the next day, it's not going to happen for 3 weeks. I guess they could call everybody back. Senator Lindsey Graham says, look, Republicans are standing firm here in a rare show of unity.
I'm not holding the border hostage. I am trying to secure a border that's broken. And I understand what happens if Ukraine fails. But my Democratic colleagues are in denial about the threats we face as a nation from a broken border.
In denial. Denial. It's not just a river in Egypt. I mean, this administration is in denial about a lot of things. So how's it going to be resolved? I don't know. But man, am I glad to see Republicans standing together in unity to solve this problem. Whew. An average of 5,000 illegal immigrants are being released in the United States on a daily basis, according to a new report. Reading from a story in the Washington Examiner, Department of Homeland Security officials told Arizona lawmakers that about 670,000 known gotaways crossed at the border last fiscal year. State lawmakers were also informed that an average of 5,000 illegal immigrants are released to non-governmental organizations who give help to the immigrants every day, according to a report. Fiscal 2023 saw a record high 2.4 million encounters with immigrants. In the final month of the fiscal year, in September, there were 260,000 encounters in that month alone. Now, in October 1, September, October, they start the new fiscal year for 2024. It starts in October, not in January. And already, October, November, now we're in December, over 440,000 encounters have occurred since the beginning of the new fiscal year. Unbelievable. It's bad as it's ever been. So you got Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky making the rounds in Washington with his hand out. And look, if you haven't, I don't know how you feel about Ukraine money. We've sent an awful lot, I think about $100 billion. My concern is that if we're going to support Ukraine and we want them to go out there and keep the Russians at bay and degrade the Russian military, which, by the way, hasn't turned out to be all that we thought it was. I mean, the Ukrainians, I don't know if they're winning or losing or if it's a draw, but one way or the other, it's a war of attrition, and the Russians have lost a lot. By some measure, I think there may be more than 300,000 people in Ukraine who have lost their lives. Devastating, no doubt. Some people look at it and they say, you know what, I don't like Zelensky. He's not really a Democrat ruler. He's a democratic ruler. He rules more autocratically. And, I think, you make a good point there. But, the way I look at it is anybody who's the enemy of our enemy is our friend. And we've often in this country in the history of this country, we've done business with people who weren't the nicest people. But it met our national security interest to support them at times. I don't have a problem with that, and I do believe that using nothing more than money and weapons, no boots on the ground, the Ukrainians have degraded the Russian military. I mean, they have lost tanks, they have lost helicopters, they have lost people, they've lost some of their leaders, their commanders. I mean, the military is not the same military that started this thing, and that's because of Ukraine using the money, intelligence, and the weapons that we send. But my concern is if you're going to do that, if you're going to support them, give them what they need to actually go out there and win decisively. We don't do that. We don't do that. For example, we're reluctantly supporting the idea of a few F-16s. Well, I got to tell you, a few F-16s, in my estimation, is not going to make a big deal. I mean, I'm glad that they would have them. They need to have some air support, etc. But the Russian military has their own fifth-generation fighters that would probably, the F-16s wouldn't have much of a chance against them. A fourth-generation fighter versus a fifth-generation fighter, even though the Russians are not as good as ours, it'd be tough. It'd be tough. And they might not last long. I mean, I say give them a couple, 2 or 3 F-35s. Send the F-35s out there and see how they fare. I'm telling you, it would be an interesting thing to see. How do our airships and our fighter aircraft, top of the line fifth generation fighters, compete against their fifth generation fighters? I think it would be pretty interesting to watch, and I don't think it'd be good for the Russians. I think those F-35s are pretty amazing. But we don't give them what they need to win. We just give them enough to keep them in the fray and to wear down the Russian military because we don't want the Russians to get too angry. That's weak leadership. That's weak leadership. So I don't know how you feel about it, and I have my concerns as well. I mean, reasonable people can disagree. It's all right if you disagree with my position. I mean, we can still be friends. It's all right. But I really wish that if we're going to get serious about it, let's give them what they need to finish the job, and take it to the Russian military without boots on the ground. Let's just do it. But half measures. Did we not learn anything from the Vietnam War? Really, honestly. Go in to win decisively, in it or not in it, but don't do half measures. Well, here's that story. A declassified U.S. intelligence report assessed that the Ukraine war has cost Russia 315,000 casualties, or nearly 90% of the personnel it had when the conflict began. Wow. A source familiar with the intelligence said on Tuesday, these are the Russians. The report also assessed that Moscow losses in personnel and armored vehicles to Ukraine's military have set back Russia's military modernization by 18 years. Russian officials have said Western estimates of Russian death tolls in the war are vastly exaggerated and almost always underestimate Ukrainian losses, which Russian officials say are vast. The source spoke as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made a last-minute plea to U.S. lawmakers to keep the U.S. military aid flowing. The source said the recently declassified U.S. intelligence reports assessed that Russia began its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022 with 360,000 personnel. Since then, the report found 315,000 Russian troops, or about 87% of the total with which it started the war, have been killed or injured. The source said those losses are the reason Russia has been forced to loosen recruitment standards and draft convicts and older civilians to deploy into Ukraine. The Russian army's been left with 1,300 armored vehicles on the battlefield and having to bolster those forces with T-62 tanks produced in the 1970s. Kyiv treats its losses as a state secret, and officials say disclosing the figure could harm the war effort. A New York Times report in August cited officials as putting Ukrainian death toll, I had this wrong earlier, at around 70,000. Writing in the Ukrainian journal, historian Yaroslav Tenchenko and volunteer Herman Shapovalenko last month said that there had been a confirmed 24,500 Ukrainian combats and non-combat deaths using open sources, though the real figure likely higher, probably on both sides. You know, the first thing that the first casualty of war is the truth. And so you don't get getting real information. No, but that's a declassified, or a leaked classified report saying we've really put it, I mean, the Russian military is a shell of its former self. 22 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk.
today's show happened because I saw a comment. He said, why don't you do something on doves and dove fields and how to find them and things like that. So
yeah. All right.
Good idea. It's past the opening day, but like you said, it can work.
Yeah.
Because the season is long. It runs for 90 days and there's 3 segments, so we're going to cover all that today. Let's rattle off the season. September 1 through September 28th is the first segment of Dove, and then October 14th through November 5th, and then December 8th through January 15th. 15 is your bag limit. So September 1 is opening day, and that's at noon in Tennessee.
September 1st has been one of those days. I mean, you'll see guys. I mean, they'll take off work. Have big cooking and getting together with friends, and it's kind of neat to see.
Yeah.
Historically, it's a huge social event. I'd say the majority of the hunters probably hunt opening day, opening weekend, and then won't pick up a shotgun until next year. So,
we have 2 other segments besides this one. Running in October, and then even all the way through January 15th. There's a lot of opportunity throughout the year.
On our website, tnwildlife.org, on our homepage, you can click the button there to dove hunting info and fields is what the button's titled. It's got all the information on dove hunting. You can find the fields there. So let's talk about how to find a field. You click on Region 2, it pulls up the options that are available, and get down to Bark Camp Barrens, and you see it's open statewide. So the hunting's not over there. There's still opportunity. Even though we had a big opening day, let it die down a little bit and get back in there. You're going to have some good hunting, I think, there, sounds like, anyway.
As we told you yesterday, Special Counsel Jack Smith has asked the Supreme Court to consider President Trump's claim that he is immune from prosecution over his alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. The former president moved to have his case dismissed in October, arguing his actions fell in line with his official duties as president. But that is going to apparently go to the high court for a final decision, because Jack Smith can't really go forward. Senior legal analyst over at CNN is Ellie Honig, and he said on Monday the 2 cases against former President Donald Trump could fall apart completely if the Supreme Court rules in his favor, which they very well might.
if Donald Trump is to win here, obviously Jack Smith's federal election interference case is out the window. I also think Fonnie Willis's case is doomed. Yes, that is a state-level case, but the principles of immunity would apply whether it's a federal or state-level prosecution. Again, that's if Trump wins. I do agree with Paula. This will have no impact on the hush money case because that conduct almost entirely happened before Trump was president, and it definitely will not impact the federal Mar-a-Lago classified documents case because that conduct was entirely after Donald Trump was president. But if he wins here, I think 2 of the 4 cases are going to be out the window.
And we'll wait. And will the Supreme Court give an expedited position on this? Sounds like they will. They have asked. They've asked the former president to answer and lay out their particular case in this matter, so that they can make a quick decision. This is scheduled to go to court from March 4th, according to thedailycaller.com. And so there you have it. I mean, this could be, the 2 of these cases could be eliminated if former President Trump is correct in saying that he has immunity as president of the United States from these kinds of charges. And there's, I think, a pretty good legal case to be made that he may indeed have that immunity. So we'll see. Some of this stuff, if you'll excuse the bad pun, is trumped up anyway. It really is. These are trumped up charges against Trump. But the matter of working your way through it is, boy, I can't imagine the legal bills he's paying right now to have lawyers defend him on this stuff. And look, the Democrats are doing everything they can to throw him off his game, but it doesn't matter. I mean, if that's their strategy, that somehow, one of these cases is going to strike gold and get a conviction, they'll be on appeal for years, and who knows how long it'll take to finally adjudicate all this stuff. But the bottom line is, this president, could every time something gets thrown against him, he doesn't get weaker, he gets stronger. I mean, it's the most amazing thing. As I like to say, he's Obi-Don Kenobi.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
That's right. Also,
this is the way. This is the way.
It is the way. It's 29. Let's call it 30 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 6:30. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 49 degrees in Nashville. Full weather forecast. Latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. President Biden weighing in on news reports about Israel targeting Hamas in tunnels under Gaza. Karen Travers has the latest.
Asked about news reports that Israel is beginning to flood tunnels under Gaza to target Hamas, President Biden said he's been told that hostages are not believed to be in any of the tunnels, but he couldn't say that for certain.
There is assertions being made that they're quite sure there are no hostages in any of these tunnels, but I don't know that for a fact. I do know that, though, every civilian death is an absolute tragedy.
The president said he believes that he's made it clear to the Israelis that the safety of innocent Palestinians is of great concern, and they must do everything possible to prevent civilian casualties.
And Israel's come under huge international pressure to help ease the humanitarian situation there in Gaza. So they've come up with a new system for screening aid before it goes in, hoping to speed up the process, perhaps double the amount of aid that gets in. But even doubling it likely won't be enough for the long-term needs of the people there in Gaza. And now with our closing money news report, it's Daria Albinger.
It was a big day for the big board on an upbeat economic report. The Dow rose 173 points, the S&P added 21 for the day, and the Nasdaq jumped 101 points. Inflation was just about unchanged last month. The consumer price index rose 0.1% from October to November, held down by sinking gas and energy prices. But the costs for things like housing, especially apartments, restaurant meals, and auto insurance remain stubbornly high. The Federal Reserve will take that information into consideration, along with Wednesday's Producer Price Index, which measures inflation on the wholesale level as it decides what to do with interest rates. Choice Hotels says it's launching a hostile takeover for Wyndham Hotels and Resorts after attempts to reach a deal with the chain failed. Choice says the terms haven't changed and that the deal is still worth about $8 billion.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
From the Paul Winkler Investments WTN Traffic Center.
Right now, Window Nation is offering you 50% off all window styles. Plus, you can get 0% interest for 5 years. It's time to get rid of those drafty windows. Call 866-90-NATION or find them online, windownation.com.
Let me tell you about the folks over at USS, United Structural Systems. You know, when it comes to large home repairs, things like waterproofing and foundation repair, it's serious business. And a lot of people, well, they sort of put their head in the ground like an ostrich in the sand, head in the sand. They don't want to know, oh, no, it could be bad. Well, it could be bad. It's true. It might be something big that needs to be fixed. But it's your most important investment, right? Your home? It could be a small problem that will become bigger over time. So if you take it now, you can save yourself a lot of trouble later. Or it might be nothing at all, and, that would be good news. When the bottom line is you don't know, because this is not your area of expertise, believe me. But it is the area of expertise for the folks at United Structural Systems. This is what they do, and they're good at it. Over 25,000 satisfied residential customers. And here's how it happens. They will come out to your house, and they will do an assessment, and they'll give you their best advice. They're not going to sell you something you don't need. They're not going to try to upsell you on stuff. Simply just going to tell you what you need and how they can fix your problem. And then if you decide to go forward, then you won't have to pay a penny until the whole job is done and you're completely satisfied. I mean, you'll have peace of mind knowing that USS is giving you an honest diagnosis, because these are really good, upstanding people. So, guarantee their best at USS. You've heard them say that. Here's what you need to know. USS serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and Northern Alabama. You can learn more online at USSTN.com or call this number, 615-488-7855.
Wow, trying to find a good repair shop is exhausting. Hey there, it's Aaron with Eurofix. Recently, I had to take one of our cars to the for warranty work, only to be shocked that it was 3 weeks to get in. But what shocked me even more was their attitude. 3 weeks, take it or leave it. I know auto repair isn't fun, and that you'd rather spend that money on a big screen TV or something else fun. We specialize in fixing European cars, top quality repairs without dealer pricing. We're here to take your pain away. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com.
Buckle up, everyone. You're listening to The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 37 minutes now past the hour. This is the last little segment we have before we hand it over to Mark Levin, the great one, and let him carry on for a while this evening. So stick around. He's very wound up right now. But again, isn't he always? Well, there's a lot to be wound up about. I mean, let's just call it the way it is. Brian Wilson here. You're listening to The Drive, and the Biden administration is I'm sorry, not the Biden administration. The Biden campaign is in trouble. And anybody who tries to tell you that it's not hasn't really looked at things very closely. And it's just shocking to me that we have the Biden campaign now apparently turning to what they consider the big kahunas inside the Democrat Party to help them. They're calling in the heavy hitters. We need help. We need help. And one of them apparently is Hillary Clinton, or as I like to say, Hillary Clinton. It's like saying Blucher. If you're a Mel, what is it? If you ever seen that movie Young Frankenstein, you know what I'm talking about. You say her name, Hillary Clinton, and people react in horror, and horses all over the place. They're reacting. I'm sorry, that's for me. I amuse myself sometimes. But they're turning to Hillary, known election denier, two-time loser. Hillary Clinton is giving the Biden campaign advice now. I noticed today there was just a little snippet that I saw. I read all the time, and these little things I don't quite make the show, but it's always nice to tuck them away. Kamala Harris has a new communications person in charge of her communications. I think this is like the sixth person she's gone through. I forget what the number is, but it's a lot. And the person who's now taking over communications for Vice President Kamala Harris also did communications for Hillary Clinton. You're in deep, deep trouble if you need Hillary Clinton to bail you out. I mean, is perhaps the worst retail politician ever. Not a great campaigner, not a glad hander, not somebody to get out there and shake hands like old Bill could. She's awkward. She has a weird sense of humor. She has a laugh that drives you crazy. And she's just a horrible. When she was running against Donald Trump, she made a decision. I'll tell you exactly what happened there. She made a decision. She'd seen the polls and she thought, we've got this in the bag. We've got it. Donald Trump is not going to defeat us. And I'm going to go out. I'm going to crush him like a bug. She started paying attention to getting a big general election turnout. She wanted volume. She wanted lots of people. She wanted to just have it be a runaway from the general election standpoint because she thought that would give her a mandate. And she wanted to just crush Donald Trump with a big, big, big number. But that's dumb. That's not how the game is played. It's an electoral college thing. You got to have the electoral college math. And so she avoided going to some of the electoral college stages, and Trump went. And Trump won those states. And she lost the election, even though she can't believe it. She still can't believe it. She wakes up every day and looks in the mirror. I can't believe I was beaten by Donald Trump. But anyway, the Biden administration turning to people like Hillary Clinton. Why? Well, here's a few stories that'll tell you what's going on. President Biden is in trouble in the battleground states. Biden holds a 4-point lead over Trump in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina, and Michigan among those who are said they're sure to vote, according to a Reuters Ipsos poll. But there's a New York Times Siena College poll which says Biden is trailing in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. And that has been a real problem. I looked at some numbers today. The latest numbers that are in. You ready for this? In a two-way matchup, Trump versus Biden, there's a poll out there today that said Trump would win. I think it's the Morning Consult poll. It said Trump will win by 2. Real Clear Politics average of poll says Trump will win by 2.4. There's no doubt, it seems to me, that Trump is going to be the Republican nominee. 2 polls out today, just looking at how he fares nationally in Republicans. And one poll said he was leading DeSantis by 50 points. Another said 54. The Real Clear Politics average says he leads DeSantis and the rest of the crew by 48 points, so that's pretty much on mark. Wow. It's amazing. He's in real trouble. Joe Biden is. Deep, deep trouble. And let's see, there's some other stuff here I want to share with you on that regard. 17% of black Americans now say they support Donald Trump. Now you say, well, that's 17%. That's not much. No, honestly, black Americans have voted Democrat almost monolithically for years. And by saying that he's got 17% of black American support, that's up 9 points from 2020. The black vote is a key demographic that has heavily favored Democrats for the past 50 years. Trump won 8% of black voters in 2020. Now, 17% of black Americans currently support Trump, and 20% of black Americans say they will vote for someone else other than Trump or Biden. So not voting for Biden helps Trump, and 17% of blacks say they support Trump. They remember the record unemployment in the black community during the presidency of Donald Trump. Trump also increased support among Hispanics from 2020. 36% of Latinos support Trump. Those are good things. Only 72% of voters, black voters, support Biden, and only 47% of Hispanic voters. Democrats lost ground among black and Hispanic voters in nearly every election in the last 10 years. Biden is in the worst position among non-white voters since Walter Mondale. Wow, that goes back a ways, 1984. Part of the problem is that people are really, really fed up about the economy. I saw a couple of numbers here. Let me read these numbers. The new Consumer Price Index report came out, and remember, it may say, well, we're up slightly or not much at all from last month. That's not how you look at the Consumer Price Index. It compounds, it adds. So what you want to know is, when Joe Biden took office until today, how much have prices gone up? The answer, 17.4%. You're paying 17.4% more for goods and services than you did on average back when Donald Trump was president. That's inflation, ladies and gentlemen. That's the way it works. Okay, well, they say, well, yeah, but wages are up. No, not enough. Actually, if you look at the wages since Joe Biden took the oath of office, they're down 2.8%. So that's like a 19, almost 20% gap. Actually, it is a 20% gap. You're doing 20% worse than you did when Donald Trump was president of the United States. And he's doing stupid things. This story right here, I'm going to end on this story because it's going to take me a while to work through it. From the New York Post. Let you know the kind of dumb stuff this president is doing. I'm going to read most of this from the New York Post. The Biden administration made 2 virtual signaling proclamations last week at a big environmental conference in Dubai that says it will help save the planet from climate change. The New York Post writes that the policies aren't likely to change the planet's temperature by even 1/10 of a degree, but they might just destroy the 21st century American industrial economy as we know it. How? Well, here's how he said it. First, Team Biden announced it will stop production of all new coal plants in the United States. This comes on the heels of President Biden's Environmental Protection Agency saying this year it would impose new power plant emission regulations. Well, the problem is those regulations are so strict that it's virtually impossible for coal-fired electrical generation plants to comply with them. So if you can't use coal and you can't generate electricity, you're losing a lot of power plants in this country. They're basically going to shut down coal-fired energy. But the White House was just getting started. Vice President Kamala Harris had trumpeted the next day new rules to sharply reduce methane from the oil and natural gas industry. They're going to reduce the use of methane. Well, methane has another name. It's called natural gas. You know, the thing that you heat your house with? The thing that, when you don't use coal-fired plants, one of the cleaner ways to generate electricity is with natural gas. It's much cleaner than coal. The administration calls methane a super pollutant that it wants to eliminate because it's many times more potent than carbon dioxide, they say. But methane is effectively a hydrocarbon that comes from natural gas. You eliminate methane, then you are effectively banning natural gas power plants. Here's the most sinister part of this story that no one in the Biden administration will tell you, because they're doing it back from the back door. They're talking about new rules and regulations, but effectively it shuts down 60% of the power generation stations in this country. Will have to close because of these rules and regulations if enforced. Sure, we all have to maybe have some concern about global warming. Maybe that's a thing to do, a noble thing to do. Well, how do you feel about, freezing to death in your house because of the policies of the Biden administration? Or sweltering in the summer? Or maybe not having any electricity at all? Upward of 60% of America's electric power generation will go away if these policies are followed. Coal provides roughly only 20% of our electric power. Natural gas supplies around 40%. Together, that's 60%. What will make up for that lost power? Solar? I mean, solar's fine. But we don't have enough. You need a lot of solar. You'd have to take a whole state and just make it a solar cell. and then it probably wouldn't even do it. What about, wind power. Wind power, sure. Well, what if the wind's not blowing? What do you do on those days when the wind doesn't blow? I'm telling you, what's really bizarre about the thing is they're coming at a time when they say they need more electricity for your electric cars. 50 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. All right, I want to talk about Legend Steakhouse. By the way, you go by on Monday, December 18th. That's 6 days from today. They have a customer appreciation event going on. You buy a $100 gift card, you'll get $125 worth of gift cards. $100, they give you an extra $25 gift card that you can, give to someone, or you can use yourself. If you haven't had a good Johnny Fleeman's steak in a while, why don't you stop by the Legend Steakhouse tonight on your way home? Many locations, you know where they are. But, you might also want to think about trying them out for lunch. They got a meat and two. Meats include fried pork chops, Smoky Mountain meatloaf, fried catfish, slow-cooked pot roast with gravy, 14 vegetables and casseroles to choose from. Home cooking like Mama used to make. I'm telling you. In fact, these recipes came from Johnny's mom. He borrowed the recipe over 30 years ago and never gave them back. And they have multiple locations in Middle Tennessee. They've been around for 34 years. The whole concept here is you get good food at a very fair price. What else could you ask for? To find out their locations or maybe to order online, just go to their website, legendsteakhouse.com. You're going to love your next visit to Legend Steakhouse.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, Investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors.
Lebanon Vodka
As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me,
Spring Street,
if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll
things are moving along better now. 65 at that wreck at Old Hickory, still got a little bit of volume there. Some back up
on the
still.
other hand,
on 24
many people
from Harding Place, back
oversimplify
to 40.
investing to
I'm
the
Jack Wellman.
detriment of
Traffic every
investors.
10 minutes.
Just
every
having a
morning.
little
On
knowledge can be
Super Talk,
really
99.7
dangerous.
WTN.
The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
It's Dan Mandis with Dr. Ethan Kellum from the Kellum Stem Cell Institute, and they specialize in stem cell therapy, using your stem cells to treat all kinds of ailments, including autism.
Yes, so folks with autism, at the end of the day, every disease that we talk about, whether it's autism, arthritis, muscular dystrophy, whatever it is, the main component of that disease has to do with inflammation. What stem cells do and do beautifully is that they regulate inflammation. So they're going to take it down when it's up. They're going to bring it up when it's down. And so that's how those things work. And stem cells do that amazingly. They know what to do.
Dr. Kellum says that while results do vary, most patients will